Chris, you hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Franklin Planning Board, February 26, 2024 meeting. This meeting is audio and video recorded. It's also on Zoom, and the Zoom call-in number is 312-626-6799 with a meeting number of 938-121-74235. Hopefully everybody can get in this week on this one.
Before we start, can I just wanted to say happy birthday, 60th birthday tonight to our chair, Greg. Thank you for being here and spending your birthday with us.
Yeah. I could have bailed. Probably should have. But thank you, everybody. So tonight, what we're going to do is we'll take care of general business first. I just want to let everybody know that 3 other members are joining in Zoom. So all I ask is you have patience tonight. It's going to be a little cumbersome because it's going to be a long meeting, and we'll get through it. But just want to let you know everybody else is on Zoom right now. So first item of business for general business would be endorsement for 25 Forge Parkway. Amy, if I could go to you with Department of Planning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So 25 Forge Parkway was approved at the last meeting, and they're here for endorsement. They have added the certificate of vote to the plans. If the board agrees to endorsement, it would be a roll call vote.
Okay, so make a motion to endorse 25 Forge Parkway. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And this will be a roll call vote, so. Jenny, you
Yep.
gonna do roll call?
Yep, all in favor. Jay Mello,
He is 1 second from being on, so you can skip him for this one.
okay, I'll skip one and I'll come back. Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Mark, and forgive me, I
Mark is
really
an alternate,
bad.
Jen.
Mark's an alternate.
He doesn't vote on this.
That's
one.
right. Oh, okay, good. See? All right, sorry, this is the remote thing being terrible. Jen Williams, yes, and Jay Mello just showed up.
Jay, we're voting to endorse.
You're muted.
Okay, please fill me in.
Endorsement for 25 Forge Parkway.
Oh,
We
yeah,
all
yes.
voted yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, good.
Good.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for joining, Jay.
And my apologies, everything is taking a lot longer at the moment. I gave myself 15 minutes and it was not enough.
It's too bad we had a big recliner here for you. You could have filled right in. Okay, our next item of business would be a final Form H for 725 Union Street. Amy, if we could go to you with Department of Planning, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's a site plan approved at 725 Union Street back on March 25th, 2019. It's for the hotel that has been constructed at the site. Beta has been out there, provided their final observation report. There are several outstanding items. They did file a final Form H. It'd be recommendation that a partial Form H is issued with them fulfilling the items that Beta has requested on their site. I know that I just want to note that the engineer is on Zoom, and Beta Matt Crowley is here with Beta to answer any questions.
Good, thank you. Matt, I saw your report. You want to just give us a quick update? I know there's still some outstanding issues.
Sure, yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we did perform our final site walk of the site, and we did notice there were a mixture of some fairly minor things that still need to be addressed, like putting hoods in the catch basins, some adjustment to the riprap on the emergency overflow. There were also some modifications to the plantings on the site. I presume some of it was due to lack of space between like the retaining wall and the adjacent property line. The only thing that we really saw as an issue with the plantings is that they put 3 spruce trees on top of the infiltration berm, which over time the roots can get in there and can potentially damage it. So those really shouldn't be on top of that. Otherwise, the plantings generally seemed to be okay. We also noticed that there was a call for a parking lane, no parking fire lane sign on the plans. It wasn't depicted anywhere. They do have the fire lane striped and written, so, I would defer to the fire chief if those signings are actually needed. A general note, they switched over the proposed chain link fence to more of an ornamental metal fence. That's not needed for screening, it's not in proximity to residential, so I would think that was an improvement. Two items for the board's consideration. They did provide striping for 2 parking spaces, 3 were proposed. If you recall, they received a waiver for reduced number of parking spaces, so out of the 100 they received the waiver for, it appears there's only 99 on the site. Defer to the board if that seems to be an issue or not. And the last thing was, they do have a ramp coming from the sidewalk on Union Street itself and a crosswalk onto the site, but there's not a ramp on the sidewalk adjacent to the hotel. We do know that this was built per the plan, but the plan did not have that. We just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Okay. I guess I'll go to the applicant's engineer. You're on Zoom, I believe. Is he out there?
You?
No?
No?
Well, if not, we'll go to the rest of the board first if he dials in. Beth, do you have any comments, questions?
Just, have no issues voting to approve a partial Form H, provided that they correct the items noted by Beta in their letter.
Okay. Jen?
Same, okay with approving partial.
Okay, based on Beta's letter as well?
Yes.
Chris?
Thanks, Greg. I agree. Same. I would like to see that 100th parking space, though, given the type of hotel that it is and the ability to get to that many spaces at times. Getting all of them that are supposed to be there would be nice.
Can I chime in on that for 1 second?
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
There are 100 parking spaces.
You just introduce yourself,
Oh,
please, for
I'm
the record.
Brian. I'm the site superintendent there.
Okay.
I'm in charge of building the project. We did move one of the parking spots. It was relocated to another area because when the retaining wall came up, we couldn't fit the 3. We do have the 100. If you count them, there are 100 spots.
Okay.
So that didn't change.
We can work that out, because I know there was one place where there was 21 called for, you had 22.
Correct.
There was also a place on the far side of the building where 10 were called for and there were only 9. So there were -2 and +1, so.
Okay. We counted them today. But okay.
So yeah, that's fine, we can work that out.
Sure.
Yeah.
The other thing, the signs, they're being taken care of. All of that stuff will be wrapped up this week. As far as the signage, the drainage, it'll all be done. The only thing, the ramp that you're talking about in the crosswalk, it can't be done. The elevation change to put a handicap in both directions, it's just not feasible with the elevations.
Was that one originally called for at that front door, the ramp? Or was it at the end of the
So
sidewalk?
at the front door, so they do have from their loading area, they do have ramps going into the building. At the corner of the sidewalk, where there's a crosswalk stripe, they do not have an opposing one. It was not called for on the plan.
Correct.
Yeah, that's kind of defeats the purpose of the crosswalk. Because now you're walking into the travel lane in the drop-off zone.
Pretty much.
What's that?
Pretty much.
Mike, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, just to chime in on that, whereas there is a ramp on one side and the crosswalk there, with the ramp missing on the other side, it might be an issue with the architectural access board at the state level, so maybe it's something you can get a variance for, or explore that, or see if there's a way to recreate that accessible path somewhere else, but it's something that probably needs to be addressed as far as comply with the other state regulations. Something to maybe look into, see what the options are.
I believe the engineer looked into it. He thought we were signing on the agenda tonight, so that's probably why he's not on.
All right, well, how does the rest of the board feel for partial Form H at this point with the idea of the handicap getting fixed in the meantime? If you can go through Mike and Beta for that, just to confirm everything as well, along with the head count of the parking spaces. Good chat, and, I think other than that, everything else looks,
So make a motion to issue a partial Form H certificate of completion for 725 Union Street, addressing all of the outstanding items noted in Beta's February 21st, 2024 letter, and confirming parking spots as well as ADA access for the crosswalk.
okay.
Second.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Jay.
roll call
Jason said.
vote.
Yep.
Jay said second. Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes. Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item of business will be a final Form H for 340 East Central Street. Okay. Thank you. Just want to introduce yourself for the record,
Yes, my
please.
name's Joe Halligan, owner of the project 340 East Central Street, directly across the street. Here for a final Form H. I've been in
Okay.
close contact with Matt Crowley and going over all the issues.
Okay, so,
They should be all addressed as of today.
okay, so Amy, if we could go to you for Department of Planning?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the site plan was approved back in October 5th, 2020, with 2 residential buildings in the commercial retail space. The applicant has filed the final Form H back in December of 2023. The back building was given a partial Form H. I know that they are here for the entire site, which probably would include 340, 332, and 330, if I'm correct. Beta's been out there and has provided their review letter, and again, with a few things that were offset, if the board wants to go with a partial again, or a final with some conditions, they can do that as well.
Okay, good. Matt, if I could go to you for a quick review, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you recall, this site was previously before the board on 3 separate occasions for various partial Form H. This report is essentially the review of the entire site, looking at all the previous noted outstanding items, and really it comes down to primarily a couple of punch list type things, such as, removing silt fence in coordination with the conservation agent. We did note that some of the residential signage hasn't been put up yet. I think that's going to take place in the spring, particularly when residents start moving into the building. Just to note that they're waiting for the electrical vehicle charging stations to have the demand to be able to install those. A couple of repairs on the site, like the dumpster pad, the dumpster gate. There's really 2 items that were more worthy of discussion, and these were brought up before. There was a crosswalk from or I shouldn't say crosswalk, there was 2 ramps adjacent to the Starbucks building. One of the ramps was inadvertently stalled. Essentially, it looked as if you should be crossing the street in that location. And speaking with the applicant, what they did is they took out the detectable warning panel, and I actually received pictures today, and they were installing bollards on that side towards the street, so that people would know that that's no longer a pedestrian crossing. And I think that just solves that issue right there. The other thing that we noted was, when we were out there, we noticed that the patio in front of the residential building looked rather steep. So we had requested the building commissioner to take a look at that to make sure that it complied with accessibility guidelines. It's my understanding that he went out there, he was able to determine that the majority of the patio is in compliance, and the applicant has a plan that they're gonna close off that small section that is not in compliance and use it more for like a planting type area. So that's all we have on our end. Be happy to answer any questions.
Good, thank you. I guess I'll go to the board first. Beth, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, can we just chat a little bit about the patio area? I know Joe's here to kind of
Sure.
give us an update.
Yeah, there was some concern about what the cross pitch would be. In a handicap area, you can't have more than 2%. The whole patio complies. Mr. Brown, the building inspector was out today, had one of those electronic levels, and we found the tan area, there's a small little corner there, is 2.2% off maybe the thickness of a matchbook. So rather than break up all the concrete and just re-pour that, we figured we're gonna put a wrought iron chairs facing the building, a wrought iron seating, and put some planting areas in there, which will also give some screening from the intersection for people who are enjoying the patio. There's more than sufficient patio area there. It's a pretty big area.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a
Sure,
question?
go ahead.
So Joe, what you're saying is this diagram that you gave us, this beige area here,
Correct.
you're gonna fence in and put just landscaping in there so folks won't be going in?
Correct. It'll be non-accessible.
And then the rest of your patio area
All
is
handicap
compliant?
accessible, 2% or less pitch. Yeah, and Gus was there today to certify that. It was off by less than a 1/16 of an inch in pitch. But it just cracked the 2.0%, so legally it can't be used as a handicap accessible area, but it is legal just to block that off and not have it accessible.
Jen?
Through the chair, wondering when the additional electrical vehicle charging stations will be installed. I know it said in the response of Beta's letter when usage warrants, but it's one of those things, if you build it, they will come. I'm just wondering how to monitor that and, you know, when would be the point that would be installed and how would we be able to make sure that happens?
Sure, I appreciate that. What we do is we do have a current company that did install 2 stations, and they will only install more when the use starts to get better. At this point here, there's not much use, and when they start to see more use, they will start to install the second one and the third one as time goes on. All the electrical conduits in place, breaker boxes are in place, so we weren't shy on installation. These companies won't install until there's usage.
So it's the company itself that mandates when the charging station would get installed?
Correct. Well, obviously,
Is what you're saying?
Yes, they're there to make money, so they want to see usage. But the apartment buildings are just starting to get occupied, so as those
Yeah.
get occupied, those stations will be full, and we'll keep adding more.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Chris?
Mm-hmm.
No, I have the same question as Jen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All set.
Okay. I just had a quick one. With the design of the patio, would that have to go in front of a design review? Fencing, et cetera? No?
No.
Okay.
Both they change landscaping.
What's that? One more time?
What was that, Amy?
Unless they change the landscaping.
Okay. Yep, dumpster enclosure, you're gonna fix that. Landscaping out back, it's just gravel, I'm just assuming the seed's gonna be going down.
So it's my understanding the seed's already down, just needs to wait until the spring for it to germinate.
Right, that's the fire lane. That's
Yep.
already been installed and seeded. As far as the dumpsters, those gates were all installed, but we took a big learning lesson this winter. When you're
Yeah,
using
they're in
plastic
pieces.
gates and cold and with the wind,
Yeah, they're in
they
pieces.
swing open once and they break, so now we're installing at a much greater cost, post and steel galvanized with the gray slats, more of a commercial application because the trash trucks come, they don't have much love for the gates when they open them up.
Signage across the way with the bollards, I can't see why those can't go in now, there's no frost on the ground, so I would definitely like to see the signage for the residential parking.
So I'll refer to the applicant and when he can install that.
We had 2 thoughts on that, and maybe I can take this, some advice from the board. So some of the parking is to the right of the shed restaurant as you're facing it. The bollards would literally be sticking up the way it was designed in the middle of a parking lot. Someone maybe at night driving around might hit them, it'd be tough for plowing. If it would be okay with the board, I would like to prefer to spray paint reserved residential only on the parking spots. Because it seems to me those bollards are gonna be pretty tricky in the middle, sticking up in the middle of a parking lot.
What would happen if you just put the bollard in front of the parking spot itself? then you don't have to worry about with the sign on it. Spray it, when you spray it, you're not gonna see it in the middle of winter. People are gonna park there from the shed.
I understand that. I mean, I can put them in, it's not a problem, that's our intention to do that.
I'd rather see them.
There's only like three of them that are going in, I believe, there's like every other one in the front.
Sounds about right,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Other than that, I think we're 100%.
So I definitely want the signage. I still, I'm gonna bring it up again, the lavender trim, it's not white trim in the building, as we all agreed to. I wanna make sure design review gets one more snapshot at that one.
Well, I think, can I comment on that, if you
Sure.
don't mind, Mr. Chairman? Joe, you went to design review. Design
Correct.
review issued you a plan that they approved, and I guarantee it probably didn't have purple trim on it.
Everything that was to the design review actually had samples that were given to the board
And they approved the purple
of
trim.
the material. Yeah. You bring a board in with the materials on.
Yeah. Amy, do we have that purple trim shown on that board?
I don't think it was purple.
Yeah.
I can ask design review.
Yeah,
We
well,
could get confirmation on that, because I think if you had something that was approved, just like we make everyone else do,
No, I
it
get
needs
it.
to be the right color.
I understand.
So,
landscape. So, go ahead.
Sorry, if I could just, Mr. Chairman, I think that first the applicant should show what colors they provided, and then I can go back to design review and show them.
Yep.
Does this match up with the actual colors that
Great.
were approved?
So basically, we'll make this a final, we'll make this a partial with some of the leftover parts and pieces. Are you gonna take out the rest of the concrete patio, the whole thing, and you saw cut that and take it out?
No. If you look at the picture there, we're gonna put wrought iron seating around the outside edge facing towards the apartments.
Okay,
We're gonna box that in and put some like concrete planters behind them. And that's it, just movable planters.
okay.
It's just so that you can't access that two
Blocking the whole
point 2%
Okay,
pitch.
okay.
doing like a seawall.
Yeah, it's just not accessible, okay. All right, so we'll make this a partial Form H with the balance of patio, design review with the trim, the dumpster enclosure, the signage, what else?
Mr. Chairman.
Was there one hood? Was there one
That's been
hood that was
done.
missing too? Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, I just wanted to revisit the EV charger since we're going to go with a partial. I guess my concern as I continue to think about it is that, and I don't know what the intention of the proposer. What's our clawback provision if those never get installed and the electric company determines that they don't think they're feasible, or the proponent sells the property and we lose our contact or our ability to kind of come back and get those installed? So I don't know if I want to close that. And perhaps keep it open as long as we have those other items as well.
We'll leave that open if we can.
Just note outstanding items dated on Beta's February 16th, 2024. Partial Form H, or Form H certificate of completion request, just addressing the outstanding items that we discussed tonight. And I think, Joe, when do you anticipate that you'll be able to come back with those items being completed?
Everything's in the process now. I've been sending Matt pictures of everything that's getting done, probably by the end of this week. The only thing I can't promise are the electric stations, because again, we hired an independent company to install those, and until the use is there, they won't install them. So that's why I'm here for an occupancy for the apartments, so we can put people in to start using those charges. And it's gonna be very hard to rent apartments in today's day and age without charging stations.
Can we put in a request for the applicant to come back in 6 months, or send an email updating us what the
Yeah.
status is of those, and just
Sure,
check in every
sure,
few
sure.
months?
I mean, as fast as I can get it done,
Yeah.
I wanna get back here and get it over, sure.
Once you got people in there with electric cars, you're gonna need them,
Sure.
so
That's
it's
absolutely.
gonna happen quick.
Jen, you wanna do a roll call?
Was a motion made?
Greg made it second.
Yep.
Okay. Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
And that is with the understanding that I will be able to occupy the front building now, correct? That's why
Yeah,
I'm
this
here,
is just a partial Form
It's a
H.
partial.
which allows me to get occupancy in the front building.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item of business would be for 444 East Central Street. This is the preliminary plan. If I could go to Amy at Department of Planning, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So they were last in front of us on January 22nd, providing the friendly 40B project for 265 units. The comments that the planning board had that night was turn the clubhouse towards 140, the main entrance, so it kind of aligns with all the other places that are on 140. Consider the 56-unit building located on the east side, closest to the abutters, to 3 stories, which they've done. Did recommend apply with design review. We didn't put that in our requirements for doing the friendly 40B, or they could just show some plans, not necessarily design review. Use the elevation on the site to hide the buildings, which they have provided a letter to explain that. Suggested parking requirements of 1.35. They wanted 1.5. I believe they've given us 1.4, so they've increased it. The drop-off and pickup area, the school bus will not go into the complex, so they will only pick up on East Central Street. Gatra, I think, typically picks up at the buildings themselves. Show the freestanding garages, which they have provided on their concept plan, and the impervious coverage, which they have provided. You know, I think that we're kind of at the point where if there's any outstanding items, the planning board could choose to recommend it would go to town council. Conservation has provided a letter to recommend to town council the project, and so it's up to the planning board. If there's any items they might still want to see, they can recommend towards going to town council.
Okay, good. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
I'll do this. We'll go to the applicant first. If you guys want to introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Edward Cannon, counsel, with A.J. Alavisos from Tag Central LLC, the applicant, and Brian O'Connor from Q3 Architects. I think it might be most efficient, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, is to ask Brian to sort of take the board through some of the changes to the proposed plan based on really helpful feedback from the board that we got at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Or you can't do that one. You have to do the one in front of Ted.
Yeah. I'll do the short.
Yeah.
We almost
Yeah.
canceled Zoom.
Why don't we just,
Yeah.
you did, okay. Why don't we switch it?
You should be able to plug that in. Let me grab this so I get the screen on. It takes a minute. Might be the screen right now.
Yeah, it's up there.
There it goes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This will be relatively quick. We just have a couple of high-level bullet points. If you look towards the bottom of the page, you'll notice there are 2 buildings on the east side. That entire area of the plan has been reworked fairly significantly. And one of the most notable things, both of the buildings that are closest to the neighbors are now 3 stories. One of the buildings was originally 4. Those are both 3-story buildings now. What we also did is sort of flip the building and the parking, effectively increasing the distance from the neighbors' homes to the building. So right now, the building that's closest to the homes, sort of on the lower right-hand side of the page, is 110 feet further away from the homes than it was in the last generation of plans. So we've made a really significant move there. There was also a little bit of discussion about the distance of these buildings from East Central. So just to highlight a few numbers really quickly, the closest of the 3-story buildings is approximately 430 feet away from East Central. So it was 310 we moved that building another 110 feet away from the neighbors, and it's now over 400 feet away from East Central. Also of note, just for reference, the 4-story buildings that are on the top section of the page here are actually substantially far away as well. They're about 415 feet away from the road, and they're also located, the closest 4-story building is behind 4 other commercial buildings as well, and I know there was sort of a request at one point to see what this would look like. These buildings are really just too deep into the site. It's really a substantial distance away. We just wanted to highlight that, and again, for reference, looking around the neighborhood a little bit, there are properties that flank us on the east and west that are similar. There's the Taj Estates, which is a little bit to our west, 4-story building. That's about 50 feet set back from the road. So again, we are, massively further set back than that. And then to our east, we have the assisted living, which you can just see sort of off the page. That's also about 50 feet in terms of setback. And that's a 3-story building, but it's sitting on top of a series of tiered retaining walls, effectively giving it a 4.5 to 5-story sort of exposure from the street. These buildings are about 50 feet away. We're about 365 feet further away than those are. Just point of reference there. Also, really quickly, you can see in the parking areas, there are white sort of parking spots that are colored in. Those are the proposed location for the smaller garages. And we did spend a little bit of time thinking about where those are and making sure that those are, again, on the edges adjacent to the neighbors, building another layer of sort of scale and buffering back to those homes. So last point, just very quickly on parking. We did increase the total parking count on the site by 25 spaces, and we're actually proposing approximately 1.45 spaces per unit, which is a fairly significant increase over where we were in the last go-around. The last thing we added is, you can see sort of delineated around the edge of the river, we've started to really draw in more carefully the walking path, which was a request of the board as well, so we wanted to make sure that was shown. And there is a slight reconfiguration at the front. We don't need to spend a lot of time on it, but there was a request to move the clubhouse closer to the street. There are sort of a couple of reasons why we didn't end up doing that. One is there's some fairly significant wetland-related restrictions that would make that difficult to do. Secondly, we felt like pulling the presence of the property out to the street would really just serve to, highlight the property even further, and we like to have this a little bit set back so that it really feels like it's in the background. We also wanted the clubhouse, which is the center of activity, to be closer to the buildings rather than closer to the street, and we certainly didn't want to pull the buildings closer to the street to make that connection happen. So fairly high level, those are kind of the quick summary of changes to the site plan, and again, most of those changes were at the request of the board, which we thought were really insightful, and we feel have actually created a better plan at this point, so.
Good, thank you. Did you want to comment? No, you're good? Okay, hold on one sec, I'll go to the audience after. We'll go to the board. Beth, comments, questions?
I appreciate the changes that have been made to the plan, and it's probably a lot of work to redesign, and appreciate that. I know we are simply recommending this to go forward to zoning board, who ultimately will make that decision on the plan. I think a lot of the items that you have addressed are helpful for me. I still think there's some more work to do, and I'm hoping that in the future you guys can resolve that through the zoning board. And the zoning board will look at this in depth. And so at this time, I think I'm of the opinion that we can make a recommendation. Oh yeah, absolutely, it's just my opinion. I can make a recommendation, feeling comfortable with this plan, that you've made some changes. Is it ideal? No, in my opinion it's not, but I still think there's a lot more work to do. And given what the board is allowed to do on this kind of project, that's, I think, we're doing what we can do.
Mark, any comments, questions?
No, I kind of agree with Beth,
Okay,
some of what she said.
Jen?
Thanks, through the chair. I have a question, just about the plan. Why is fire access required? I guess it's plan north, but true west. On the west side of sort of across from the clubhouse.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, I can answer that. In working with the fire department, we had a couple different meetings with them, and that fire access road was requested in the event of an emergency. They didn't want one access to the western portion of the site that's on the top of page. They wanted an extra path to get around that street in case it was blocked off during an emergency. So that's why you have that secondary access, just to be able to go around it and access the western portion of the site.
And it looks like that access is coming through the adjacent property?
No, it's actually an existing easement with the adjacent property, and it's existing asphalt driveway that connects to the existing property, so we just left that to be.
Okay. I guess I just, like, in my opinion, think it's unfortunate whenever we have to eliminate significant landscape. And I don't know, on that portion of the existing site, just because I don't have the existing conditions or demo plans in front of me, what is currently there, but for, something that is only going to be used in the case of emergency, although I appreciate you trying to, of course, accommodate our fire department's request for life safety standards. I do really appreciate what you did to the east side of the site in trying to make this a better experience for the abutters. I do wish that we were at least bringing some portion of the clubhouse, sort of the more public-facing entry, visitor portion of the clubhouse, anything that could be done to elongate that building to give it more of an edge to continue to define what is, at least on the commercial side, or bridging between commercial and residential on this part of East Central, what that pedestrian experience like is down the street instead of having so much pavement and drive and parking up front. But otherwise, again, we're making recommendations, and ultimately it's going to be up to the ZBA to take it from here. And that would continue to be my recommendation, is to adjust the clubhouse or entry experience in particular to be more responsive to the immediate context of East Central Street, but otherwise an improvement overall. I think if we could extend the access to sort of the path along the wetlands, I know that is for the residents, and maybe public access doesn't necessarily want to be encouraged, but to have a connection not just to the clubhouse, but all the way back to the street, and making sure that even what I'm not seeing on this plan, obviously, is the next level of detail of kind of pedestrian connection to East Central Street. So kind of continuing that would be great to see moving forward as well, to again, connect north-south all the way around the wetlands from an accessible pedestrian standpoint. So thank you for your work in improving this, and hope the ZBA will consider some of these comments as well. That's all, thanks.
Jen, and correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like they carried that walking path back towards the clubhouse. Am I correct in saying that? The yellow shade line?
Yeah, it goes.
That's correct. This site plan just doesn't have the level of detail yet that you'll see from us in the future. We will have unimpeded pedestrian connections, sidewalks connecting from the residential buildings, the walking path along the wetlands, all the way to East Central Street.
Okay, thank you.
Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I like the revisions we've seen so far. I guess the question I have is, it looks like those buildings that are on Plan North that are still 4-story, they have now 64 instead of 56 units, obviously to make up some of the decrease from the other buildings. Were those buildings elongated? Obviously, I'm assuming the height hasn't changed because they're still 4-story. Is that the adjustment that was made to accommodate the additional units, or was a unit size consideration made?
Yes, that's correct. The footprints were enlarged slightly to make up the differential loss. Yep.
Great. No other questions, thank you.
Okay, good. I only had a couple quick questions. The fire access road, will that be gated or will that be fully functional for the site development? For the one coming off the main entrance?
Sure, and when you say gated, where are you talking for the gate?
Right across from the clubhouse where you have the addition that says designated fire access only. You're gonna gate that?
Yeah, it's not gonna,
Just gated for specific.
correct, Knox box, it's not gonna be,
Okay.
for any other access other than
Just
emergency.
wanted to make sure. And then the only other couple of quick comments I wanted to make sure of is, I brought it up the last time, water and sewer capacity and discharge. I wanna make sure we have the capacity for the water. We always seem to have problems in the middle of summer with everybody. I'd like to see some paperwork from DPW or DEP, just backing it, that we can actually afford to put this project in for our capacities, if we can work on that.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, we did reach out originally, and one of the questions we had to do with the sewer capacity on East Central Street. And basically what will happen is they'll work with the town's sewer consultant to do a study based on their flows and determine whether it's something in the street needs to be upgraded, or it might be a situation where they need to create more storage on site and pumping off hours. That's not an uncommon practice there, so we'll look at that.
Okay. And in that we have enough water to supply it.
Correct, that'll be evaluated.
I want to make sure we cross our Ts. And the other thing would be, obviously, we're gonna be looking at a full traffic study for this as well.
Correct.
Anybody in the audience?
We have
Oh,
one more.
sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, sorry, Jay, go ahead.
forgotten.
I missed you.
That hurts. First off, I'd like to thank you guys for, listening to some of the stuff, and especially the 3-story buildings. I think that was a big improvement for the site. I'm okay with the clubhouse location. I think that it serves functionality for your site, and I think it's important to consider, especially as you're trying to make your property as habitable as possible. I do hope, though, that you tie it into kind of the transitional point that is in town, recognizing that across the street the assisted living isn't exactly like the most hidden away building, but I still think maybe some landscaping there would be good. And the only other thing I would suggest that hopefully the ZBA looks at is maybe some elevations across the site. I know a few of us had discussed that at the last meeting, and I think that's going to be important really to kind of show how this is going to fit in. But I think adjusting the parking and the 3-story buildings along the eastern portion of the site is going to go a long way for that. So, I'm comfortable supporting this moving forward.
Thank you, Jay. Just before I go to the audience, and Beth brought it up earlier, I just want to make sure everybody's aware, this is considered a friendly 40B. This is information gathered from different boards, and we make recommendations to the developers and the applicants to make changes on the plans. Ultimately, this falls directly under the Zoning Board of Appeals, so I want to make sure everybody's fully aware of that. It doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of the planning board. This is just a recommendation to go to town council. Town council will take it, and then it'll go directly to Zoning Board of Appeals. This whole site, everything entailed, falls under their jurisdiction, so just want to make sure everybody's aware of that, to follow it. Any questions or comments, always contact the zoning board, find out what the updated meetings will be and whatnot, but just want to make sure this is a 40B, basically 40R, so it doesn't fall under jurisdiction of the planning board, that's all. It's only recommendations. But I do know there was a couple people in the audience. If you want to just approach the mic and give your name and address, please.
Gino Carlucci, 1 Tony Lane. During the Franklin for All project and with the consideration of MBTA communities and such, there's a lot of talk about walkability in Franklin, helping make Franklin more walkable. This project has tremendous potential to help with that. However, it does the opposite because of the location of the clubhouse and the frontage consisting of a driveway, a large driveway loop and parking spaces. Again, I repeat my recommendation that the clubhouse be moved to not just closer to the street, but parallel to it, to create to help frame the street and screen the buildings in the back. And you did a great job describing what a friendly 40B is, but to elaborate on that a little bit, it's supposed to be a cooperative endeavor between the town and the developer. And DPCD asked for the clubhouse to be removed. They asked for design review to be consulted, and both those things were denied by the applicant. So I just want to finish by saying that the streetscape is a key component of walkability. Leaving it as, like I said, with a loop in parking spaces does not contribute to walkability. And you have the letter I submitted, I believe, and the 4 points I wanted to make in that letter is that the clubhouse could help frame the street to create a more inviting entrance to the downtown area and make it more walkable. It would advance the town's goals toward walkability. It would identify the project as part of the community rather than an isolated complex separate from the community. And finally, it would, as I said, it would screen the buildings to the rear and as well as the parking in the back. So my recommendation is that you recommend that the town council support this as a 40B, but with the condition that that clubhouse be moved to the front. Thank you for the comments.
Did you want to respond? Because I know you said you had wetlands you were contending with about the clubhouse. Do you guys want to respond to that?
Can I ask a quick question before?
Sure.
Did you get a copy of Mr. Carlucci's letter by chance?
No, we did not receive
Okay,
that.
you
just
give him a
got
copy?
yours.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. In regards to moving the clubhouse, there is a small section of the wetlands that exists in between the roundabout driveway in front of the clubhouse. So we're very limited on where we can put that building. We can't put it over that. So that's one of the reasons why we left it in its current configuration. But furthermore, as Brian mentioned, we do feel having it set back further from the street introduces the views of the residential buildings behind it better from the street front, and secondarily, having it closer to the residential buildings is essential for the community to function, given all of the amenities in the clubhouse and operating functions like mail and leasing. So
You did move it as we looked, and you've already started with Conservation Commission, correct, Amy?
yeah, they have a recommendation from
Yeah,
conservation.
so basically, you had limitations to where you could place that one.
Correct.
I just want to make sure Mr. Gucci understood that.
correct. Related to Conservation Commission restrictions, yes.
Anybody else in the audience have any comment? We want to just approach the mic, give your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Maxwell Marangello. I live at 127 Central Park Terrace. I'd like to echo the comments by Mr. Carlucci about the walkability issues and making sure that it's a walkable area. I think I'm very in favor of affordable housing, but I also want to make sure it's transit-oriented. And walkability is a big piece of that. Also, right now we have this seems like it's going to be off topic, but the Surgeon General indicated we have an epidemic of loneliness in nationwide. And when we talk about design of our communities, we got to design our communities so people talk to one another and be a part of one another and be a part of a community. So I understand sort of the desire to silo and sort of be set back, and I don't want to change it that much, but I do think that the design of the building should be so that we have a neighborhood where people can talk to one another and go outside and talk to the neighbor. When I see all these little cars out there on the street, I don't see an ability for people to be able to socialize and talk and interact with their neighbors. So a possibility if you ever go to a college campus, they have a quad, where people can go out and have a common area where they can socialize. And I don't see anything like that here. There's maybe a few trees, seen a bunch of parking up there. But I'm wondering if there could be something like, a common grill area or common, maybe instead of a clubhouse, have a common sort of, in addition to a clubhouse, having a common yard or area where people can come and socialize and grill and cook and talk. And the other thing is in reference to walkability, and in economics we learn a little bit about externalities, and there's a classic example of, a beekeeper next to, someone who's a florist. And they help each other out. So we, 2 abutters down is the Big Y. And in the middle you have the Planet car dealership. If both, it is in both your as a developer and Big Y's best interest to be able to have pedestrians go behind that car dealership and have a path, a pedestrian path. So if you were able to talk to the car dealership and the Big Y and come back to the planning board and see if you can make a path work so that you don't have to go all the way out in front of the street, I think that would be very beneficial. And I'd appreciate if you could comment a little bit about sort of the symbolism of the structure and how it relates to community development. Thank you.
You want to reply about the clubhouse and the
Sure. No.
community efforts and whatnot?
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. Just touching on the the gathering spaces and amenities that'll be available to residents here. We will have multiple outdoor grilling stations that will be integrated into the community. Secondly, we will have a dog park that's a central function of the community. We also have the outdoor pool with grilling areas, and then the clubhouse itself will have substantial amenities within it for tenants to gather. Regarding walkability, as we stated in our application, which was recommended to us by our traffic engineer, we will be building a new sidewalk connection that doesn't exist today from our property, our proposed driveway, to the sidewalk, which terminates today right at the medical office building property line. So we will be providing a new sidewalk onto the street to connect that important pedestrian connection, because we agree having walkability to downtown Franklin as well as the numerous retail amenities nearby is really important for our project.
Okay, good, thank you. Anybody else? So I saw one other hand raised, no? Anybody in Zoom? No?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to recommend, make a motion to recommend 444 East Central Street, friendly 40B to Town Council and Zoning Board. As submitted, however, if any ability to include any of the items, changes dated February 21st, 2024 from the DPCD, and review of Mr. Carlucci's letter and comments by Max.
Second. Roll call vote. Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate all the changes and help.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item of business would be for, this will be for Maplegate, the Solar South. Amy, if I could go to you for a quick review?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. They haven't been in front of us for a while. However, they wanted to come here and give an update. They are still in front of Conservation Commission, so it hasn't been approved through them. Really, my only comments at this point are the special conditions that I will continue to put on my recommendation letter. I don't know if it's going to apply tonight until they have resolved the Conservation Commission.
Okay. So I won't, I'll go to the applicant, because this is just more of an update for everybody for review. So if you could just introduce yourself, appreciate it.
Yes, hi, Greg DeBono with Bowler. Good to see everybody again. And yeah, we have been I think touching base periodically, mostly via Zoom, just to provide some updates. But I do feel like we're making some good progress. We're getting to a point where I believe we will likely be kind of wrapping up, I believe, the Conservation Commission portion in March. So I just wanted to do a kind of a quick update tonight, just to explain the latest plans and the responses that we put in. We understand Beta hasn't had a chance to do a full review yet, so that would be forthcoming. But we believe we've made a lot of progress and addressed a lot of the comments that were put forth in their September letter. The plans I have up on screen are just the latest drawings that were resubmitted, and just to give some context as to what's been changing and what we've been dealing with. So after we, I think, had our original meeting, which again goes back to, I think, the fall of '23, we then kind of got into the cadence of having various meetings with the Conservation Commission. And one of the biggest components was, at first, is verifying our true limit of the wetlands, which big site, a lot of wetlands out there, vernal pools, et cetera. We had a lot of areas to delineate, and what it required was, after Beta did their peer review on the conservation side, we had to go out and reflag some areas basically back in January, then have them resurveyed and then thrown on our plans. And when we did that, we realized that about 19 flags, which on a site that has about 500 flags on it, 19 is not that many, but they were in key areas in terms of where the wetlands got a little bit larger. And now all of a sudden our wetland buffer disturbance got larger, and the areas around the vernal pool that we're trying to preserve, became more important. So we wanted to make sure that we pushed all of our improvements out of the way. So what I have up on screen, this is just the demolition plan. If you remember from some of the earlier discussions, we put all this different colored hatching in here to try to delineate the areas of red equal buffer disturbance within 25 feet of the wetland buffer, yellow was 50 feet, and the green was 100 feet. And what's kind of hard at this scale, but it shows a lot better on the plans, what you see now is like this crosshatch waffle area. This is no longer disturbance. This is all restoration area. So we pulled our improvements much further away, and have several acres now of restoration area all along the limits of the wetlands. The only area that we're disturbing within the wetlands themselves is still just the crossing. So we had that crossing. There's an existing wooden cart crossing there, but we have to upgrade that to make it, rated for fire vehicles for our new access road. So that cyan area was the only area on site where we have wetland disturbance, and the only new buffer area is this little red area here adjacent to it. And again, it's all tied to the new access road that would connect the two sides of the solar project. And really, there's a lot of work done around. This is the big vernal pool on site. So all this is all restoration work. So right now, how we identify the restoration work was we just basically went off of where's the golf course already doing disturbance and active use directly right up to the wetland line. And if we found that we were able to move our improvements outside of that, pretty much everywhere from like our new fence line, which will run the perimeter around the solar, to the existing tree line, we're going to restore all that area. So a lot more landscaping got put in, a lot more restoration seed mix. So we ended up actually adding all new landscape sheets to the set because it was getting too hard to kind of merge that information with our soil erosion plans. Let me just quickly, I'll just scroll down to the site plan. I think that will cover everything I need to show you for tonight. So of course, the set has about almost 40 sheets in it, so there's a lot of information, a lot of different viewports, but don't need to go into that level of detail here tonight. I just want to talk some of the big picture changes. I might be able to do that right on this one layout. Okay. So again, just as a reminder, the access to the parcel is all through the North project, which we had previously gotten approved last year. North project was shown on these plans as in blue for reference. So that was a prior project. And now really the southern project is kind of like the phase 2 of the overall development. And what you can kind of see here, but it's hard without going side to side of what the old rev was and the new revision. But because of the where the crossing came in, and because of how much restoration area we had on this side of the wetland, previously we had panels and our equipment pads further in, closer to the wetland limits. That all had to get moved, so we kind of shifted our equipment pads, moved our truck turnaround area, and actually just took advantage of the change to straighten out the access road. The connection point through the wetlands was still the same as what we showed previously, but previously we almost had like a kind of like a I don't know, 30-degree angle or something of this access road, which was actually causing us to lose some usable panel space. So we, in order to remedy the amount of panels that we were losing because of the disturbance within the wetland buffer, we straightened this road out. This whole access road, which does come up and it kind of dead ends here with the turnaround space for the other equipment pad, that whole road got pushed about 25 feet further into the site. That road used to be further in, but this was some of the areas where the wetland lines got adjusted. So now all of a sudden the buffer line encroached further into the site, so we had to make the changes to push everything out. The other kind of item that relates to Beta's comments that were shared with the planning board back on their September letter, there were some comments about stormwater mitigation, and so we added some infiltration stone trenches around the equipment pads to basically just pick off that runoff that's coming off the equipment pads themselves. So that was one change that was made, and we kind of spelled that out and detailed all those responses out in the letter. So there's a lot of detail there, but I think really what would suit us all best is kind of waiting for Beta to get a chance to do their follow-up letter, see if there's still outstanding technical comments or not, and then, of course, any further feedback from, the board, I'm, happy to hear. Just so you're aware too, we're simultaneously running through the process with Bellingham as well, because this whole lot up front, this is also still has Bellingham's lot that fronts on Maple Street. We're not using this access for driveway at all, but this is where the power interconnection will be coming through. So along the frontage here, we have 2 utility poles, and then there's going to be an underground conduit system that will connect basically underneath the wetlands and then come back out onto our side of the project. So through that interconnection, there will be conduits for the electric connection as well as a feed for water. We are providing water just to provide fire hydrant service. So we don't have anything that needs a water hookup, but we are providing 2 hydrants on the west-hand side of the development, roughly adjacent to where the equipment pads are. So I'd say I just open up for any further comment, but I think that's all I really wanted to cover. I just wanted to share with you guys.
So
And
we'll keep it kind of brief.
Yeah.
Beth, comments, questions? Nothing? Mark? No comment. Jen, any comments, questions?
All set.
Jay? No? Chris?
All set, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I actually just had one quick, how
Okay,
far
go
along
ahead.
are you with Bellingham right now? At what stage are you at?
So we have, I think the next Conservation Commission meeting, which we expect them to take action on, is I believe the 13th of March. And then their planning board meeting is the 28th of March.
Because you're pretty close tying them together.
That's correct. And then we are back in front of Franklin Conservation Commission on March 7th. And we believe at this point, we did respond to their comments as well, and I presented there, I think it was last week. We feel pretty confident that we're going to be in good shape to get, a letter of recommendation on that 7th meeting.
And then, has fire department reviewed this last rendition?
Not the latest revision. He made comment on the prior two.
I would, if you extended
but I'll
them
follow
and-
up to him, yeah.
If you extended them and moved them around, I would just recommend
Yeah.
getting a letter approved from fire department as well. Amy? And I
Yeah.
have actually one more question after that, but go ahead.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that when we did the parcel 1, there you were to address parcel 2, for access, for some type of whatever's going to be walking trails, public access, I see that there's nothing coming off of Bellingham now into that parcel. So I just wanted to address this with the board, that this should be addressed in this phase with parcel 3, on what is your plan for parcel 2?
So I think our response on the parcel 2 is kind of similar to what when we talked about in the north, which is the applicant is intending on providing that land for the town's use. We don't have, there's no program for it. We're not proposing any specific like ball fields or anything there. It is, we do show access easements so that there be access to get to parcel 2 through the properties that we control, which is parcel 1 and parcel 3.
Is there like parking areas?
There's, that gravel area is shown, and it's wide enough to be utilized as parking and still provide the access that we would need to be able to get from parcel 1 to parcel 3. So that oversized gravel lot that you see is intended that it could be used as a parking area.
So is it only access through parcel 1? There's no access through parcel 3?
Parcel 3 also goes through parcel 2. There's the only way to get in and out through there is through parcel 1. That's right.
So parcel 3 is completely a dead end to no access out through Bellingham.
That's correct. It can only go through parcel 1.
That's
So
a lot.
You'd be coming off the north side of that.
That's, yeah.
That's correct. Yep, it would still be.
Can you scroll that down so we can see how much?
Yep, this would be.
That's a pretty substantial.
So that's 100 acres that is only access through
You
one
supplying golf carts?
point?
No, I don't think we'll have any golf carts anymore.
They have electricity, they have the carts, you make a deal.
So, yeah, so I mean, the access, for us, I mean, mostly the access is needed during the construction itself. Once it's built, the maintenance activities, this place gets observed basically once a quarter. So like 4 times a year, you have a car come down that access road to make sure that everything's, being serviced. But beyond that, there's really there'd be no like public access to kind of go down and meander down through those solar projects. It's all fenced off, it's all gated.
So was this part of Bellingham's dilemma with this?
So
Was the access from one of the
Bellingham's
others?
dilemma is that whatever eventually gets proposed on parcel 2 will have to go to Bellingham to seek out if there's a desire to get separate access through the Bellingham lot, which is another property that we don't own. It's the LNP property that currently has solar on it next door to us. They have definitely voiced opinions about concerns of what that parcel 2 would be used for. They mentioned at meetings they thought maybe somebody was proposing ball fields there or sports fields, and we explained that was not the case. That's not what the intent is, but that I believe is the reservation for saying they're going to want an application to basically come forth from Franklin on behalf of using parcel 2 for something, so that Bellingham would then have to approve it for access.
So if the town of Franklin submitted a letter,
Mhm.
and we provided it that it was just gonna be basically open walking space and whatnot, could we move forward with that through Bellingham? So, cause it's a pretty long run between entrance and gravelled area. If Bellingham could work with us on that as well, what do you think, Amy? It's just gonna be open walkable space, where there's no ball fields or anything of such, correct?
Yeah, well, I think that was always the intention of parcel 2.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have a ball field on it. It'd be more like a dog walking park or just. I think this entire site wants some type of an outdoor activity to walk around. I think I'm more concerned that you're going through 100 acres with only one entrance and one exit.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if we could provide
So,
the town of Bellingham with something.
Make a suggestion, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman, just, maybe a letter that indicates that the town of Franklin supports parcel 2 as a passive recreation facility. Passive meaning, meandering through it, not active with ball
Those-
fields and whatnot.
No swing sets, no lot, just.
Yeah, just passive
Down, open.
recreation. I think we have a definition in our bylaws about what passive recreation is, so.
Yeah.
And then maybe the applicant, 'cause it doesn't sound like we're gonna have that all resolved before you're looking for a vote on this, perhaps a condition that indicates,
Yeah, I don't know what, in terms of how we're gonna be able to get
And you could get that-
something defined from the other property adjacent. We know that Bellingham obviously controls the access to their solar project, the one next door to us. We're showing an access so that if that access does get extended, and by access I just mean permission to use it, right? The road's already there, the golf course maintenance facility's been using it for years. And we're showing an easement, a proposed easement to connect at that same point to be able to provide access across parcel 1 to get to parcel 2. What we haven't had much luck controlling is the ability to then get an access that would be useful for Franklin's use across the LMP property and through Bellingham for that use,
So
yeah.
maybe the letter from the town of Franklin would help LMB make their decision to
Yeah.
allow access through with Bellingham working in conjunction
Right.
with it. Go ahead. Amy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that, I'm just looking at over 100 fire. I've never seen fire allow one access, and that's the concern.
That's why I wanted the fire department to look
Yeah,
at this revised.
yeah, definitely a fire letter because, it's pretty big. I think from the beginning, when you came in with the, parcel 1 in the north, the
Yep.
plan was to have that second access through Bellingham through parcel 3, and that we're not seeing right now. So I think that's a concern.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so I will definitely follow up with fire, and we'll get a letter. We've also been, going through fire review for Bellingham as well, so we're kind of getting double fire departments reviewing.
So maybe you can split that roadway in and use it as fire access as well as public
Right.
access, serving both towns. It's
Yeah.
a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, so there are existing other access points that could still be made, like there's the utility easement access, there's the other access to get to the solar. So in the case of an emergency, there's abilities for vehicles to get in and out and connect to our site, but we're not showing those as like our primary access drives. Like those aren't the ones that we would be using to construct or service the site.
But maybe just as a secondary means of
Yep.
entry egress.
Yeah.
Okay. So definitely want to.
That's good. I will,
Definitely want to work on that.
okay. I will follow up on those items and we'll look to get confirmation from both fire departments regarding the service and comfort with this area.
Okay, good, thank you. Anybody else have any comments, questions?
One final question.
Yeah, sure.
Is Bellingham looking for us to vote before they make a decision?
No, I don't think so. I think at this point, they're primarily focused on looking at the project on the lots that they have impact on. You know, they're looking at the element of, even though it's in Franklin, they believe that, you know, Bellingham Fire responds here first. And that's what's driving their review of the fire and the access and providing water service. And they understand that we are using the existing golf course access as the only access drive for both projects.
Understood.
Yeah. But they have yet to say that they wouldn't take action until, you know, we hear from Franklin.
Okay. So Amy, timing for continuation?
My recommendation would be
Push
March 11th would be, give it time to go through conservation, Bellingham,
Fire department?
Yeah, we'll at least
or
have
later,
them-
or later,
I
it's
would-
up to you.
Maybe go the next one possibly, just, well, unless you want to come back with a quick update.
I don't know, it's up to the applicant, March
I
11th
mean,
or March 25th.
if we can get, because by then I think we'll probably have Beta's review letter back, I would think. And if things go the way I think they're going to go with Conservation Commission on the 7th, And I think, 11th could be a pretty productive discussion.
Okay.
If for some reason that doesn't work out, then maybe I can just communicate with Amy about asking for a continuance then.
Okay.
Because I don't want to, take up everybody's time if we're, we haven't really achieved anything.
Okay. And Amy, I just had one more quick question in reference. Special conditions was this, the bond?
Mm-hmm.
Without me feeling foolish, did we see that bond yet?
We have not, we only have it for north, we don't have it for south yet.
Okay, so I want to make sure
Yeah.
we can see that, the whole
Yes.
composite of
Yeah.
the decommissioning trees, everything,
Yep.
Mhm.
for the 11th.
Yeah.
Because we want to review that as well,
Right.
along with Beta and Mike. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Make a motion to continue Maplegate Solar South to March 11th.
We hear a second?
Second. All right, roll call vote. Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you. Next item of business would be for another public hearing, which would be for 10 Kenwood Circle. And if, Amy, if you could give us a overview, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. They were originally assigned to the planning board as there was a change of use there. As we know that they had several cars lining up, many cars lining up, a delivery service, similar to an Amazon, but it's more private cars. A few things from the last meeting was to add the dumpster to the site plan, which I didn't see on it. Show the queuing lines and the stacked cars, which has been provided on the site plan. The signage, and then hours of operations. They were kind of a little sporadic on that one. I think that Beta has provided a letter and has reviewed the project, so they said they don't have any outstanding comments, but I believe that they are on Zoom if there's any comments from them. And Mr. Cannon, probably your traffic engineer's on Zoom too, I think, no?
Yeah, we have
yeah,
several members that
yeah.
came on, yeah.
So, it's just determining if the board is satisfied with what the applicant has provided to resolve this.
Okay. I guess what we'll do is I'll go to Dennis from Beta. You out there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Dennis. How are you? Dennis, if you could give us an update of responses, correspondences, and your review letter, please.
I can do that, yeah. So our initial review was in the way of I believe, February 7th letter. Responses by the applicant's engineer, Vanass, were provided to us, and so I think the latest letter here, sorry, I may be getting my dates a little mixed up. Yeah, so we had provided, sorry, I'll back up for a second. We had provided our initial reaction to the applicant's responses. We had our initial letter on December 14th. Our response to the applicant's responses, if you will, was in February 7th. And they have since issued a letter February 21st with further responses, all of which we have reviewed and had no further comments on. I think the only one item I felt was good to bring up for the board's consideration is there was some discussion based on our initial observations of identifying or seeing vehicles parked along the roadway on street, and there was some discussion through the review letters about that. And I believe at the last planning board meeting, at least the last one I attended, there was a desire to not allow or accommodate parking on street. So the applicant has responded that they are offering or willing to provide some signage along Kenwood Circle to enforce that no parking signage, very simply. And I think that was just the one sort of item that maybe warranted a bit more discussion, just to make sure everybody is understanding that that is their proposed approach. The revised the site plan that we have seen addressed any questions or comments we had, so we had no further concerns with that. It seemed to be appropriate based on our comments and our observations from back in December. So that was really it in a nutshell. I mean, you can certainly expand on anything if requested, but that was really it.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, you out there? Jeff?
Jeff is not, but Dan Lascivita is, who works with him. For the record, Dan Lascivita, traffic engineer with Finance and Associates, works with Jeff Dark. I think Dennis kind of did a good job of summing everything up. Our February 21st response letter kind of cleaned up all pending comments from Beta. And I would agree with Dennis that kind of that one, I don't want to say outstanding comment, but the one comment regarding the restriction of on-site parking, the applicant has committed to pending approval from the necessary entities within the town to restricting parking along Kenwood Circle. And just like Dennis, I'm here to answer any questions and can go into any more depth on any of our responses.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kinnon, if you just want to introduce yourself and give us a brief overview on your behalf.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Edward Cannon, counsel for Lasership, also known as On Track. I'm joined today online. You spoke with Dan from VAI, but also Jack Mills and Ian Kelly from On Track and Brandon Lee from Kelly Engineering. But essentially that is it in a nutshell. We received the comments from Beta. VAI went through them, pretty much agreed with everything. The parking or no parking along Kenwood is really at the discretion of the board. The applicant is fine with whatever the board likes. The applicant just didn't want to be presumptuous and put signs out without this board's consent. And so all of the recommendations are fine. I think it makes a great site. Fortunately, when Beta did their review, it was probably the busiest week of the year. It was like 3 weeks before Christmas, so it was a worst case scenario. So we feel really good with all of their recommendations, and I'm very comfortable with that.
Good, thank you. I'll go to the board. Beth? Colin?
Sure. So the applicant is indicating that they're going to put no parking signs along Kenwood Circle, which would indicate all their parking is sufficient for accommodating the trucking, the movements and everything. But you had mentioned, the kind of off-season type or on-season issues because Beta visited on their most busiest day. So it is a scenario that does happen. So in that scenario, this plan will accommodate that, and there won't be cars on Kenwood Circle, is what I'm understanding.
Exactly. At that time, there was no signage along Kenwood, and some of the parking on Kenwood was attributable to the site, some was not. But again, at that time, the applicant didn't want to be presumptuous and put no parking signs out because we didn't have direction from this board as to what this board's pleasure was. So again, happy to put out no parking, and both Beta and the applicant are very comfortable with the functionality of the site without any parking along Kenwood.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
to Mike, there's no issues with somebody putting a sign. How does that work if we want to?
So, thank you, through the chair. Any signs or anything done within the public right of way will have to be permitted through DPW. So filling out a permit, and we coordinate that and just verify where the signs are going and what's going to look like. We'll coordinate that though.
Okay, good.
And then, assuming that the signage works, put signage out there to your heart's content, and not everyone's going to follow what the signage says. Is there an opportunity for Beta or planning board somehow in like a 6 months time after all these improvements are made that somebody reviews it to say, yeah, it's working, it's not working, we need to revisit it?
I think it's always at the discretion of the board. If the board feels as though what's happening here is not functioning the way it was represented to be functioning, I think it's perfectly acceptable to say, hey, you're not you're not functioning correctly. You have parking on Kenwood, you have, you know, queue lines backing up onto Kenwood, you know, traffic backing out onto Grove, whatever the concern may be, then that's not, you know, that wouldn't be complying with
Sure.
whatever the permit is
Just
here.
want to make sure there's no, like,
Yeah.
weird
I was
reason
gonna
we
bring
can't
that
get in there
up.
and
Yeah,
check
no,
it
no,
out.
I was gonna bring up that
Yep.
probationary period anyways, but,
That's my thoughts
Mark,
on it.
any comments?
No, I was gonna ask the same thing as who's gonna monitor it, you know, so.
You are, the new guy.
They may not want that.
Okay, Jen?
Sorry, muted. I just want to make sure that it is overseen, that there's, I mean, we could put up no parking signs, but hopefully there's enforcement, but would at least encourage that as a starting point. And I agree, check-ins make total sense.
Good,
That's all.
thank you. Chris?
Same sentiment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jay?
Yeah, really, I guess the focus is on the street parking, right? Like, I'm not sure why we need to formalize it through like signs. We could just agree that we shouldn't do it, but I mean, if we need to formalize it through signs, let's get it done that way. But that's kind of my big one.
Okay. So, what's that?
Anyone in the audience?
I was gonna comment first. So, yes, I definitely wanna put the signs on Kenwood, no parking, go through Mike. Go ahead, Mike.
Just, Mr. Chairman, just one other note on that. I'd have to double check with the town attorney, but I think any no parking, any prohibitions on a public right of way might have to be approved by the town council also. So we might have to, it might be one more layer, so we'll have to explore that a little bit just to verify that can be done.
Okay, yeah, this, just the proximity of the whole thing, safety-wise is the most important thing.
No, I agree with the intent.
Yeah, okay. And, I guess the second, note I would make is a duration of time for this to be reviewed. You wanna go 9 months, or watch it for 9 months? What are you thinking? 6 months, 9 months? This was at the height, so I'm just kinda timing it. 9 months would put us into the Christmas time or whatever, right?
Yeah, it would. I mean, if this gets approved in, whether it's tonight or the next meeting, 9 months brings you to December.
I'd like to see it. What do you think, Mike? I mean, wanna make sure it works too.
I think once everything's in place and it's operational, I think we'll probably know pretty quick if there's any issues or not. I mean, you can extend the, you know, the probation period up to a year, maybe, just to include next Christmas season, if that's something you wanted to do,
Just
but.
evaluation for a year?
Yeah,
Is that
I would just say
sufficient?
if the board, I guess what, my preference would be if the board is troubled by something, then sure, let's come back in and talk about it. But if everything's working fine, then we'll just sort of disappear.
Maybe, Mr. Chairman, monitor any calls or complaints from folks that there's traffic issues on parking on the street again, and, you know, if
That's just a matter of
Beta's out
who's-
and about checking things, just keeping an eye on it.
What about on the other side of the street? I've seen aerial views where there's tractors on both sides, so is there no parking on the other side?
There shouldn't be.
So, but
So
that's,
this one here
that's there.
really became a real pinch point, and there was a lot of traffic on this one, unfortunately, so that'll be our next venture down the road. All right, so, Amy, just as we progress forward, probationary for, just a period of time, we evaluate, keep another evaluation for a year?
Yeah, so the planning board can set a condition. I don't know if they want to make a decision tonight or just close, but set a condition that it be monitored for 9 months based on complaints, has Beth said, any calls and complaints. Should that happen, then the planning board can initiate the applicant to have a traffic review. And Beta can be hired to review the traffic review.
I just wanna make sure we as the town and everybody keeps an eye on it, not just wait for complaints. I wanna make sure we keep an eye on it while it's in progress, that's all. So,
How
okay.
about, close the public hearing today and let Amy draft that condition for us for the next meeting to take a look at?
Comments? Just approach the mic, please, give your name.
Max Marangello, 127 Central Park Terrace. I just had a question regarding in terms of businesses that are commercial, that have a lot of vehicles that go out through the streets, I'm less concerned, I'm concerned about the parking issue, but I'm also concerned about what happens when, I mean, I know that's already not, that's not for discussion here, but when cars go out and into the community from a certain point, I'm curious if there is a certain zoning rules currently in place, or like a zoning overlay district for commercial entities that have a lot of vehicles, and if not, is that something that can be implemented or should be implemented? Because I mean, I know I always hear from people about concerns about traffic, and I'm like, well, we always talk about, you know, resident traffic, but also, I mean, I think commercial traffic's an issue too. So I just want to make sure that when we do zoning, that that's addressed, and I just didn't know if that was something that we could look at.
Yeah, thank you. Well, this one falls with the hours of operation, with the facility.
If I can respond
Sure.
to Max. Max, I think, if I'm hearing you correctly, that you're asking, do we do traffic studies for commercial buildings as well? And how are we evaluating that as we're reviewing plans? In this instance, because it was an existing building that's looking to expand, it's not necessarily something that qualified for a full traffic study, but the applicant has provided us information as to how circulation within the site. We don't have overlay districts that necessarily dictate where your traffic can go, if that's what you're
Yes.
asking.
Yes.
So the answer to that, I think, is no. There's no specific traffic patterns. Sometimes conditions will be given on a plan that will indicate traffic can't turn right. We put up signs, but other than that, there's not a whole lot of restrictions the planning board puts on how the traffic goes out, except for reviewing a traffic study, which helps us understand where they're coming from, going to, and how much of it.
No? Very good. Thank you, Beth. Okay. Do you want to make a motion?
Oh, motion to close the public hearing for 10 Kenwood Circle.
Second.
All right, roll call, Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Make a motion
Put it on the next
for.
agenda
Yeah,
to
we'll put it
vote.
on the next.
It'll be general business, yep.
Yes.
Under, March 11th.
March
March
11th.
We'll have a comment
March 11th.
period, general business to comment on the proposed plan,
To
conditions.
make a,
Yeah.
review
Yeah.
conditions and.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
March 11th?
Yes, but it'll be general business.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go to our next public hearing, which would be for 15 Liberty Way.
Yep.
Amy?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Most of the comments that have been made from the last meeting that was last in front of us on December 18th have been addressed. I know talking with the engineer here, he wanted to give an update. They are still in front of Conservation Commission, so they haven't been issued their NOI on that. So tonight's more of an update meeting.
Okay, if you just want to introduce yourself for the record, please.
Good evening, Daniel Campbell, Level Design Group, on behalf of the applicant.
Dan.
So what we have is basically through all of the review, what you see is very similar to what we presented in December. What we have done since then is multiple conservation hearings, a little bit through the regulations, a little bit through what drainage requirements there are surrounding the property, and a little bit of drainage requirements internal to the property. So we've been with Beta back and forth through Concom. We've started to address Beta's comments for the planning board. I believe there's still a few outstanding comments. They are performing their next review hopefully this week or starting this week. So hopefully we'll be able to be back in front of you by the end of March with a cohesive plan to close the public hearing.
And when are you going to Concom next, you said?
It's their next public hearing.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Just more of an update and a briefing?
Absolutely. Just wanted to let you know where we were, let you know we're not ignoring you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Mike, any comments or questions?
No, Mr. Chairman, it looks like most of our previous comments have been addressed, but I haven't fully reviewed the most recent submissions.
Okay, all right, good. You wanna go towards the end of March, was it 25th, you said? Would that be sufficient?
That would be our preference.
Is it
Okay.
25th?
Yep, yeah, it would be March 25th would be the end of March.
So we make a motion to continue 15 Liberty Way till March 25th. Wait a second.
Second.
Second. Nope. Roll call, Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Thank you,
evening.
appreciate your help. Okay. I'm gonna make a motion, take a 5-minute recess. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
And then we'll,
Second.
because yep. All in favor?
We have to roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Jen?
We have to roll call vote this. Jay Mello,
Yes.
Chris Stickney,
Yes.
Beth Whirling,
Yes.
Greg Rondo,
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes. Okay, 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Is that enough time for Jay?
This is WFPRLP Franklin on 102.9 FM.
everybody's here for a specific meeting, but we have one more meeting in front of us before we get to it, so hang tight. This is an initial public hearing for 6 Forge Parkway.
Make a motion to waive the reading.
Do I hear a second? Second?
So,
All right, roll call vote. Jay Mello. May not be back yet.
It's all right, we'll skip him.
Chris Stickney.
yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Jennifer Williams. Yes. Okay.
Jay's trying to get his bid to work.
Start.
Go ahead.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Amy, if you could give us a brief overview for 6 Forge Parkway, please?
Sure, thank you. So this is a new filing. It's a vacant lot. The applicant is proposing to construct a 36,000 square foot building for manufacturing and warehousing. They filed with conservation. I'm still kind of waiting for the fees for Beta and DPW to review. I believe we do have a fire letter that wanted the side of the proposed building pavement to be extended from 14 feet to 20 feet. A few things that reviewing the plans, outdoor lighting, open space area, snow storage area should be provided on the plans. Any proposed signs should also be shown on the plans and the photometric for the light, if there's any light spillage that goes off the site. One, I guess the biggest thing is they don't comply to the width. I've asked, I have reached out to the applicant engineer to provide the determination on when this lot was created. Was it created prior to our zoning laws going into place, or was it not? If it was created afterwards, they would need to go to zoning board of appeals for a variance for the width of the lot. So that's is outstanding at this point.
Okay. Do you think that'll, should that get resolved first before we make all our comments?
so.
Or
I mean, I think that
before, we don't wanna waste everybody's time and anybody's time if it's not, if they have to go to zoning first.
I
just assume.
Yeah, I look at it as it's kind of two things tonight. One, they could give you an overview of what they're proposing, so the board's aware of it.
Yep.
And then number two, I mean, it's going to be continued, and they need to come back at the next meeting to provide whether it's in compliance or it's not in compliance, and they have to go for a variance.
Okay, so I think we hold all our thoughts until.
Yeah, I have
we
a hard
get-
time, reviewing a plan that hasn't been determined whether we can actually
Yeah.
review it or
Okay,
not.
all right, so we'll hear them out. Is anybody here representing 6 Forge Parkway or online, by any chance, on Zoom?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Michael Malinowski. I'm with Allen and Major Associates. With me is Evan Tormey from Piedmark Development. As Amy had mentioned, we are looking to develop the vacant lot that is located at 6 Forge Parkway. I am going to share my screen so everybody can see. Everybody see?
Yep.
Like to? So we are at 6 Forge Parkway. The existing parcel is approximately 10 acres in size, a little over 250,000 square feet. It was created back in 2000 with the subdivision of the land when the Residence Hotel to the west was developed. This parcel was also developed and remained vacant as part of that development. We will touch base and sort of figure out the lot width that Amy had mentioned that had come up tonight, so we can sort of go through that. As Amy had mentioned, we are proposing a 36,000 square foot light manufacturing warehouse facility, potentially with 2 smaller tenants, along with included in that 36,000 square feet is 2 office, 2,000 square foot office spaces, more to deal with the logistics of whatever tenant ends up in those spaces. We do have loading docks at the rear of the property, as well as a loading ramp that would allow access for any fork trucks or smaller vehicles to actually come up into the building. We have, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
Did you say that
Yes.
this lot was created through a subdivision in 2000?
Yes.
So our zoning was definitely in place, and you're showing a lot that has,
250,000.
it's required to have, oh, I just lost it, sorry, 1 second. Which was that on? Did you see where I saw that?
Well, probably your index block, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. Hold on. Sorry, I lost my page, give me 1 second.
That's okay.
Sorry.
It was in place.
Where did it go?
It's on sheet C102.
What
Yeah,
sheet,
so
Jen?
we have a
C102, it's the third.
Oh, got it, okay. So the zoning table shows that you're required to have 157.5 feet for your width, and you're only providing, sorry, my glasses are really bad, 43 feet. So, I mean, that's not even close. I mean, if you need to provide us a lot that complies for us to be able to review it, I think that you would need to go to zoning board before you should be sitting in front of us, showing us a plan that
Downsize the whole building.
it doesn't comply right now.
So,
okay.
correct, that's
I'm
what
just
Amy-
saying, like,
yeah,
rather than
exactly.
going through all this when
Yeah.
we've had a pretty lengthy meeting today and have to move on to another one, I think you should get your ducks in a row about whether this site can actually be developed as you're proposing before we do a whole in-depth presentation on what you're looking for. Just my opinion, I'll defer to the rest of the board.
No, I think, I think if you just finish with a brief overview of what your thoughts are, and then we're gonna defer back to, whether it even meets the regulations. But I think just a brief overview would be sufficient to get us going.
Okay.
Everybody's aware of it, so don't get into the in-depth stuff, we'll get into that at a later date, but just give a brief.
No,
overview.
understand. We're still waiting for Beta's review. As Amy had mentioned, we did submit with Concom for an RDA. We do have a small portion of wetland at the northeast corner of the property. All of our development is outside of the 100-foot buffer. We are providing a comprehensive stormwater package that was submitted to the town for review. We do have an infiltration system that's being proposed in the back to mitigate the attenuation and peak runoff. We do have also a small bioretention area that's going up in the front of this area as well. Utilities on the site. There's an existing water stub that comes from the south that goes through the project. We're proposing to tie into that, as well as electrical that is stubbed in front of the hotel for the development of this parcel. Proposal is to provide gas out to Forge Parkway. We do have a landscape plan that was provided that meets the requirements of the town. That's, I guess, as broad an overview as we can provide at this point. Be happy to take any other questions, and we will definitely review the lot width requirements.
Yeah, I think we're gonna defer all questions until we get the lot width and the zoning squared away. If everybody's okay with that. That way there, everybody can be on the same page. So, Amy,
Yes.
what do you think?
I mean, if it requires ZBA, you're probably at least 2 months out. I did just receive the check today for Beta to start reviewing the project, so that's definitely at the earliest would be March 25th.
We just go March 25th and then we just bump it from there if need be?
Yeah, I mean, I think they need that variance before they I would think before you want to spend any money with Beta and everybody else.
I think April would be more
April.
appropriate.
Yeah, let me just
Give them a little bit of time, yeah. Was that like April 8th or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Good call, okay.
Mhm.
So, let's just make a continuation of this until, the lot's resolved and the setbacks till, April 8th.
You need to check in the audience since we did
No.
open a public hearing. Make a motion to continue until April 8th.
Second. Second. Roll call, Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes,
Jen Williams, yes.
okay. Thank you, so we'll go to April 8th, and hopefully you can get resolution, and then we can take it from there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Folks of the board.
Good. And we'll go to our next public hearing. This is gonna be for initial public hearing for 488 and 496 Summer Street. This will be for a special permit site plan application. If Amy could give us,
Make a motion to
What?
waive the reading.
yep, second.
Second. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes,
Jen Williams, yes.
okay, thank you. Amy, if I could,
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what we have in front of us tonight is a special permit and site plan under our senior village overlay district. The project's known as Autumn Hills Senior Village and was submitted on January 26, 2024. They have requested 2 special permits, which I will get into in a minute. The site's located at 488 and 496 Summer Street in the rural residential 1 zoning district. Is 12.2 acres with 2 existing single-family residential buildings. Rural residential 1 is allowed for single-family homes only. However, with an overlay district and a special permit, it can be permitted. The applicant's proposing to construct 44 multi-unit residential buildings for over 55 per senior village overlay district. They've not requested any waivers at this time. They still need to file with Conservation Commission. However, I know that the wetlands are a little bit further off, not going to be disturbed, but they do need to do that. As of tonight, we've received a letter from the fire department. Comments. Currently, Franklin, as part of the section 18548 of the senior overlay district requirements, we have exceeded our 2.5% in senior housing. The applicant has to provide a reason to proceed with allowing additional over 55 units. Planning board is the planning board's special permit. They can allow or deny or justify that we need additional units for seniors. Our housing production plan does provide that in an affordable and low income compact of it all, but so that's up to the planning board. They will have to under the senior village overlay district, they have to provide 7 affordable units, and it's recommendation that prior to any acceptance, they get DHCD that will accept that onto our SHI list for affordable housing. Another one is, so out of the 2 special permits they filed, one is for the senior overlay district, the second is for inclusionary zoning. There's already affordable units requirement in the senior overlay village. If they want to do inclusionary zoning, I think that's 10%. That would add on to it. That would make it 25%. It's either one or the other, or it's both. So I'm not sure why the 10% in the inclusionary zoning was filed in there, because 15% is automatically required under the unit count that they have requested for the senior village overlay district, as well as a kind of like my final comment, where 18 units are currently allowed, but due to providing the affordable units, that's what bumps them up to the 44 units. So, and additionally, it's required that 30% of open space, the open space should be usable. Not just open space that's not usable, such as walk and pass, activity, some type of access to that, which I did not see on the plans. And as well as, it should be identified the 7 affordable units, if it comes down to 7 or whatever the end count is. Where are they? What are they going to be provided? Are they equal to the market rate units? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Amy. Before I go to the board, I'll go to the applicant. If you could introduce yourselves for the record, please.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Edward Cannon, counsel for the applicant, Sujo Corp., along with Dan American from Legacy Engineering. And thank you, Amy, that was a good overview of a site, and as the board knows, but for those that are in attendance, this is our initial hearing, very preliminary at this stage. So we're here to introduce the project tonight. Essentially, Beta hasn't had a chance to take a look at it. We haven't had a chance to get comments or anything like that. So we just wanted to give the board, the public, sort of an overview of what the idea was, and there'll certainly be lots of opportunity for folks to comment on it. So just, if I may, to a couple things that Amy had mentioned. Our interpretation of the bylaw was that the inclusionary zoning piece was a requirement, so we wanted to include the request with the application. Better to over-apply than under-apply. If the board says it's not necessary, that's fine with us. But that's the reason that that's been included. So if I may, through the chair, ask Dan to sort of take everyone through the proposal.
Sure. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dan American with Legacy Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant. As Ted mentioned, this is a request for a senior village. It's on 2 pieces of property, 488 and 496 Summer Street. Property on the top of the plan there is 488, and then the bottom is 496. It totals 12.39 acres of land. And you can see there are 2 existing homes on the property. With appurtenances, those are proposed to remain. Basically, the front portion of the property is not really proposed to change, except for providing some access. And this is the proposed layout. As Amy mentioned, we're asking for a total of 44 units. So to get to that number, we are proposing an additional 7 affordable units, which would yield a total of 10 out of the 44 units, which is just shy of 23%, so comparable to what you might find in a comprehensive permit type of a project. In the back of the property, as Amy mentioned, there is a river, Uncas Brook. There is a pretty good drop-off from the top portion of the site here down towards the river, and all the wetland resource areas are located well in the back of the property. There's no work proposed in the wetland resource areas at all. We have the wetlands, the buffer zone, the riverfront area. No work is proposed in any of those areas, so we can certainly confirm that with the Conservation Commission. We are proposing to enter the site here with a 2-way driveway in this location here, just to the south of the existing home. And then come in, as you come in, immediately to the right would be a mail kiosk with a little pull-off area. People could get off and get their mail. And then there would be a looping, circulating driveway around, which would provide access to all of the units. Each of the units would have a 1-car garage and then a parking space or a driveway space in front of them, so 2 parking spaces per unit as is required by the bylaw. We have provided comprehensive stormwater management design and report. Beta is in the process of reviewing our application. We have 2 stormwater basins proposed, one at the top of the property here and then one in the bottom right. As far as utilities are concerned, we have sewer at the frontage on the north side of the property, so we're proposing a low-pressure sewer system. It's a privately maintained system for the development that would discharge into the municipal sewer. The applicant's also proposing to extend the municipal water main up Summer Street, and we're in the process of working with the town on the specific design of that, and that will involve the installation of a booster pump station to increase water pressure. And that would occur at some point yet to be determined further north on Summer Street, so a number of existing homes between here and wherever that pump station ends up will receive the benefit of that increased water pressure. That's something that the applicant is working with DPW's consultant on the water system design for how we would go about accomplishing that. And as Amy mentioned, we do have open space proposed. We do have a lot of topography in the rear portion of the site. So I'm working on some ideas for maybe some walking paths in the upper portions of the site. And I'll probably sit down with Amy at some point to go over possibilities and options for that, but I think we can certainly provide some passive recreational types of areas in the open space areas that we are proposing. So that's just a broad overview. Happy to answer any questions the board has at this point in time. We are waiting for Beta's review, so there's still lots to do.
Okay, good. Before I go to the audience, I'll go to the board first, and then we'll go to the audience. I guess Beth may have some questions.
Got a lot of questions, actually. The first one I have, and I don't know if you want me to ask you the question and then you address it, or go through all my questions and then address them. What would be easier for you?
One at a time is good.
Okay, great. So the first one I have is, let's see. Your base number of units allowed under the bylaw is 19, correct? And with that 19, that would mean 3 affordable units, but you're providing 3 affordable under the base plus an additional 7.
Yes.
Okay. That base 19 or your 44 units? Do you know what I'm saying? Are you, how do I explain what I'm asking you? I don't understand your math. Basically, you have all these bonuses you can get for additional units. So I don't understand how you go from 19 to 44. Where's the math showing why you're getting all these additional units?
So the bonus for affordable units, additional affordable units with, provided with a Franklin residence first right of refusal is 2.5 additional market rate units for each affordable unit. So the 7 times 2.5 yields an additional 18. So there's 25, that bonus group is 25 on top of the original 19.
25 units based around the original 19, just because you decided to add 10 affordable units.
Yeah, that's the bonus provision in the bylaw. Basically, when you build an affordable unit, you do so at a significant financial loss, and I think the bylaw recognizes that, you know, a certain number of market rate units are appropriate to kind of mitigate the provision of that additional affordable unit.
So are you asking for any other bonus units other than the ones based upon your
Just the ones based upon the 7 additional affordable units.
So the way you have it kind of laid out here is your base units are 1.5 units per acre, which is 19, including 3 affordables. But then it gets really confusing because you go affordable housing bonus 1, 7 affordable units. So if you're asking me, you're getting 7 additional units the way you have this written out.
You're talking about the notes on the plan?
Yeah, your notes don't correspond.
I could rewrite it in a maybe a clearer way.
Absolutely, because it doesn't, the way you have it written up and the way you're explaining it don't correspond.
No problem.
Just show your detailed math on how you're coming up with all these additional units. Let's see. Give me a second as I go through my notes, sorry.
I'm not in any rush.
That changes some of my comments just because what you're saying versus what I had written down math-wise. Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. So the two single-family homes that are going to remain on the property, are those residents going to remain in the home?
I think, yes, in the short term, sure. They're gonna become condominium units in the condominium complex.
That's really creative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because so the first right of refusal on some of your units, whether they remain affordable or not, you're including people that already live in the housing units as part of your calculations. Okay, so that those units aren't going to be offered to anybody else but the people already living there.
For the time being, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a way
They'll
around
basically
it.
become part of the condominium association.
Okay. Any rehab going to be done to those two existing single-family homes? Or they're going to just stay exactly how they are?
There may be some work done. I don't know if there are any specific plans. I can find out.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you. Let's see. Okay. So, in reading the bylaw, usually you go through a pre-application process. So this plan is definitely more advanced than the pre-application process, but it seems to be a lot of the items that are required, whether it's pre-application or a concept plan, it still says that you should include these. So what I'm missing is, unless I don't see it on the plan, it says your vegetative cover conditions on the property according to general cover types, including cultivated land, meadow, pastures, woodland, wetlands, trees with a diameter at a breast height in excess of 15 inches. None of those are marked on the plan. I'd like to see them.
Okay.
How many are you cutting down in order to accommodate this for something that's supposed to have open space? Then vegetative types shall be described by plant community relative to age and condition. I'd like to see that information as well throughout the site. I think that your special condition answers to your questions really need to be looked at. There's really not a whole lot of information in those responses that tell me that this is worth doing for 44 units with all these abutters that are sitting behind you. To me, your open space is the leftover land. It's not accessible. You have really high retaining walls. Your two units that you're claiming are part of the senior village are cut off completely. So it's really just two single-family homes with a development behind them. It's not in the essence of what the senior village bylaw is supposed to be. You're not. So show me something that you are. Cross sections, I'd like to see what the views look like to the neighbors, your view shed analysis, location, and extent of views into the property from public roads and from public lands. That's another thing. If you have an abutter to the town forest behind you, please mark that the town forest is there or in vicinity. Let's see. Your open space. Again, I'm just going to reiterate, your open space to me just seems like an afterthought. Like you had a development in mind at one point in time, you didn't get your zoning passed, so now you're here in front of us with something that mimics a senior village, but is not the intent. This is not a senior village. Where's the gathering areas, a sense of community? Nothing. It's condos on a property. Let's see. The property number, let's see, unit 16, I think. What is the sewer connection? Is that the only reason that property is being included in this development, or is it to boost the number of acres you have? What is the point in including that property?
The applicant had made arrangements with both properties. I don't know specifically what the point was.
There's really no reason to include it.
Well, I mean, I guess I would respond to one of your thoughts, which is, in our mind, leaving the two existing single-family homes, even though they become units in the development on the street frontage, is an advantage because it basically maintains the existing streetscape on Summer Street.
For the
Doesn't change
existing
it.
property owners that are going to remain in there and not give the opportunity to be part of this senior village. You're again, segregating these two properties simply to make this work. Your open space, again, new trails, pedestrian links should be laid out to create internal and external connections to existing or potential future streets and sidewalk trails. What's the plan for your open space? How are you going to give that to the town? Is it going to be something under Concom? Is it going to be privately owned? What is the plan? What should we look for? Let's see. I would like to see responses provided to all the info in, let's see, page number 2 on the bylaw. So it's going to be, let's see, section E, A2. View sheds, I think I mentioned that. What amenities are being provided in your senior village to reflect an integrated community? I haven't seen that answer. I'd like to see that. I think you said that your wetlands, from what I can see, you have the outer zone, inner zone, and whatnot. That is all going to be preserved as no touch, no access, nothing. It's just open space, correct?
Open space.
Okay. And your open space is not contiguous, so you have this kind of portion up front. How is there any plan for how you will make this kind of more of a usable open space?
Well, as I indicated, that the areas in the front portions of the site are walkable, so I think we can do something with some trails, some sitting areas perhaps. And the only reason that area is not contiguous because there's a proposed utility connection through there. At the end of the day, that's just going to be vegetated open area, so there's no reason why a trail couldn't meander through there. But I am working on some different aspects for how the passive recreational component of that open space will function.
If you could do me a favor and just, the areas, just denote how big each of those open space areas are with the square footage or acreage.
Sure.
So you can see that, that would be helpful. I know you say a total amount, but I'm just curious, in the various locations that have been picked out for your open space.
Well, there's 2 separate open space areas.
Yeah,
But
I'd just like to know. Again, I think I already mentioned, what's the plan for how your open space will be permanently protected? Time of your application, where's your copy of your open space management plan? Don't have that. You have to go to Concom, wait for that. Let's see. Just what do the buildings look like? Kind of I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, we actually got it.
We did? Did we get it?
There
Oh,
are
I'm sorry, I
renderings
missed that.
provided,
My
yeah.
bad. Sorry. Got that? Thanks. Thank you. Let's see. Again, just how many acres of trees are being reviewed for your development, for your development to occur. You're noting your trees with the caliper. Cuts and fills. How significant are they? Just minimizing your cuts and fills, which I'm not sure that's happening in this plan, but let's see. Just more in depth, why is this beneficial to approve 44 units where 19 are allowed? I just don't see that as being feasible on this site. I mean, a comment of unit 33 and 32, and you're just cramming 2 extra units in there for no reason. There's no point for those. They're separated out from the rest of the development just to get 2 additional units in there. I guess just, really go through these bylaws and you want us to look at a project and to be a realistic review, realistically provide the reasons why this is happening. I don't see it, so. Yep.
I'll go to, Jen?
Thank you. I had a lot of similar comments, but I also just wanted to add, in addition to the density and deforestation, which would have to happen to make this work, I would like to, we're talking about over 100-foot grade range on the site from the street down to the town forest. And it is going to completely change the experience of the town forest itself and the walking trails, because you're going to be looking up at all of these units and massive retaining walls. So in terms of the, not only the open space on the site itself, but the way it's going to affect open space and experience the open space that the residents of the town or any visitors to the town forest. So I just, I think that needs to be kept in mind. I would like to see on plans trails existing trails within the town forest related to this proposed site, and certainly site sections in the east-west direction on multiple points of the site to understand the relationship of the town forest and those walking trails to any built structures or development, so that people get an understanding of what that experience is like. Related to that significant grade change, we're talking about walkability on the site. You provided some driveway profiles. Again, this is an extremely steep site. So I'm not sure how a driveway, which a significant portion of the driveway has an 8% grade change, is considered walkable, easily walkable in a very friendly way for anybody, never mind an over 55 community. An 8% grade change, just so people have some comparison point, by ADA is essentially a 1 to 12 slope, which is required when a handrail is required. It's not a very gradual slope of 5% or something less. We're talking steep enough that would require a handrail or come very close to it, and that is a significant portion of even just getting up to the site. And if you were somebody, at least right now on the plans, accessing sidewalks to even just make the loop around where the condos are proposed, you'd have to navigate these intersections through all these steep grade changes as you come around the bend. So it just doesn't feel conducive, certainly not from street access all the way up to the condos. If it were supposed to be pedestrian friendly, it's actually the opposite. And never mind sort of an unsafe driving condition. You've got a steep hill to come up to access the site, but intersecting the steep hill, you have the drive coming around, and it just feels like it's not, we have icy winters, we have questionable weather, it doesn't feel like the safest just site access and pedestrian access situation, never mind the fact that there's absolutely zero open space amenity right now provided for supposedly the proposed residents, because Beth made all the points that the open space that's on this plan remaining is completely inaccessible because of it's essentially a cliff. So I appreciate the profiles. I think seeing site sections in multiple portions of the site to really help everyone wrap their heads around the relationship of existing houses and town forests and trails to propose new massing and retaining walls and driveways will be important. And I would just echo everything else that's said on top of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Chairman, may I just offer a couple of points on that? No?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just would
There
note
was a
that
lot, there's just a lot of information.
there was a
coming,
lot. I
so-
just, a couple of points. Number one is that, obviously we've chosen the areas of the site that have the least amount of grade differential as the area for the development. But secondarily, the 8% grade for the driveway is consistent with your subdivision regulations for a subdivision road, public road.
Thank you. Jay?
Excellent, thank you. So, not to echo a lot of what Beth and Jen said, which are already concerns of mine, I'll kind of focus a little bit more on some technical stuff here. One of the first things that stood out to me was there was only one entrance to this. I did see that the fire department pointed out the same thing, but one entrance is just not going to work for this, especially when you consider that it's a 55 and older, and you might potentially see a few more emergency calls here than the typical development. So the sidewalk through the site, right? You've got 2 crosswalks. One of them's a mid-block, and the other one does not meet the American with Disability Act. I can just tell by the way that the wheelchair ramps are configured. So my recommendation would be or what I would like to see rather, is the sidewalk continuing around one entire portion of the site and having one wheelchair ramp somewhere. Because I think that's what you can do across the site, right? Is you only have to have one ramp. You can put it in a very obvious position. You can make it parallel to the road and not at a corner, perhaps right before that first corner right there, and then make that a heck of a lot safer, especially when we consider this is going to be a 55 and older development. I am very familiar with this site. I was the guy who redid the trails in the town forest like 7 or 8 years ago. And that, for all intents and purposes, where that borderline there is a cliff, it's an exposed rock face along some of that. So the site is very steep. Some of these retaining walls we're talking about here are like 20 feet, so that's pretty big. So that definitely needs to get looked at by Beta and a geotechnical engineer, and a lot more intensity than we normally would. And one of the big things that really popped out at me that I am not comfortable with at all is the location of these drainage basins in relationship to these very large retaining walls. It's going to have a potential to put a lot of hydrostatic pressure on that, no matter what kind of drainage feature you put behind the wall to keep it out. Some groundwater contour modeling, especially along those drainage basins in the back of the site, is definitely warranted here. We don't want to have anything where that water is starting to break through that wall, which we've seen on other sites in town, or starting to cause some serious pressure behind it and cause it to fail, especially with walls of that size. So those would be my big outstanding ones, not to beat on anyone else's bush.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly echo a lot of the concerns shared by my colleagues. I think I agree also with units. I think it's 31 and 32. One of the things that I've seen in my personal and professional experience is that developments like this tend to have more visitors than anticipated, and not necessarily from a traffic consideration, but more so from if someone has a party or a cookout, and these roads can get congested and clogged in the subdivision. So I think having some ancillary guest parking would be a good addition as well. I think those 31 and 32 units would be a good drop to maybe make that happen. I think the second access is a must, also consistent with the fire department's concerns. But overall, I think trying to find a resolution here to increase senior housing stock, the senior affordable housing stock, is important. But I think some modifications to this plan are necessary to try and see this one through.
All good? All set, Chris? Yep. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I do have some comments. I agree with all the comments everybody's made so far as well. The 2 existing houses, I think they're only there just to get the acreage out of the property itself. I think those should be isolated, whatever you want to do with them, but I don't think this was the intention of the senior housing to just incorporate the development behind two homes. I think it was intended to have a isolated piece of parcel that you could put a project on, so I'm not too comfortable with the two existing houses in play. Retaining walls, I mean, I did some quick math, you get 24 to 26 foot tall retaining walls. The access behind it, you got no access for the walkability for the trails. That's just another one. To Chris's point, visitor parking, there's no visitor parking, overflow parking for anything. Walkability, I don't see any other than the roadways. Lot of units here, guys. A lot of units stuffed on this particular lot, okay? So that's something I have an issue with. Study of traffic, I would like to see some numbers for the traffic for the neighborhood. Houses, yeah, just water boost station, where would it land, a private property, town property, walking access? Any additional sidewalks going down the street to the existing conservation land? I don't see anything proposed there. I don't believe there is any, if I'm not mistaken.
No, there is not.
So I think for additional walkability to get to the conservation land down the street. Yeah, and I agree with a lot of the comments that the previous board members made, so, and then I'll go to Mark too, because I didn't forget you, but.
No, it's, thank you. Again, a lot of the comments I also agree with. In addition, where that unit, what is it, 3132, as far as overflow parking, you mentioned that the open land would like it to be accessible to the public, but there's no parking for the public. So where do they park? I am also familiar with that, the topography of that area. I walk back there with my grandkids. Its proximity to the town forest concerns me. You have Uncas Brook that runs all the way back to the well that's out behind Big Y, so that concerns me in that respect. There are vernal pools back there. There are culverts. So I think I would concur with having the Conservation Commission look at that. Again, the second entrance that's recommended by the fire department, I agree with that also. My last comment is the swimming pool. Who has access to that? Is it for all the community, or is it for one individual resident?
I'll discuss that with the applicant.
What's that?
I'll discuss that with the applicant.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set. Good.
Can I ask,
So,
Mr.
yeah.
Chairman, can I just ask for one more thing?
Sure.
And if I missed it, I apologize, but I don't see a key or a legend for any of your symbols on this plan to know what is what. So if you could add that, that would be really helpful. For instance, you're referring to what I'm assuming is a fence around Unit 1's property.
There's a legend on sheet C1.
Is there? Okay, I'm sorry if I missed it. C1, C2.
On the right side.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh, right in front of my face, and I missed it completely. I apologize. Sorry. Okay.
Need a magnifying glass.
I do, I just can't read it. I'm getting too old, I need better glasses.
Okay, so, before I go to the audience, I just want to make a quick note. I know everybody's been here, I know there's going to be a lot of the same conversation. I'm going to hold it to 3 minutes per conversation. Just don't repeat everything the previous person said. Get your points across, and we'll hear it out. But I know there's a lot of you here, I'm sure you all concur. If there's one person that wants to speak on behalf of everybody, or a few different people, that'd be beneficial too. But if whoever wants to approach the mic first, and just give your name and address, and we'll start the clock. Yeah, we'll do 3 minutes max per person. There's a lot of yous, we don't have that much time. No.
Thank you very much for staying. We appreciate it.
No.
My name is Kimberly Kane-Beers. I live at 493 Summer Street, directly across the street from one of the homes that this project would be behind. As I mentioned in my letter to the board that I dropped off last week, my husband Eric and I, along with our children, lived across town on a very busy street for many years. We decided that we wanted our children to grow up on a safer street, so my husband spent a couple of years looking at different parcels of available land in Franklin that we could purchase at an affordable price on a quieter street. We wanted more land so that our children could have a yard to play in and a driveway to ride their bikes and scooters in and play basketball. When Eric found this parcel of land on Summer Street, we loved it and could picture ourselves living there, even before we designed a house that we had custom built. We thought that we would live here for the rest of our lives, even after our children grew up and moved out. We were under the impression that we were purchasing a parcel of land in a rural residential neighborhood that, other than a couple of homes at the beginning of Summer Street, would always be single family homes. Like most young couples these days that are raising children and working, our life is extremely busy and sometimes challenging enough without having to continue to fight to save the neighborhood and home that we have come to love over the past 12 years. A lot of us are making personal sacrifices just to make enough money to pay our monthly mortgages and provide for our families. Not one person here tonight deserves what these land property owners are putting us through for the second time. This proposal is not about providing housing for our aging seniors who are living on a budget. It's about making as much money as he can. These two parcels of land are zoned residential, and no one in our neighborhood, as you've already heard, well, actually I'm the first one to talk, but you will hear, feels that they should be allowed to rezone their land from rural residential 1 to senior village overlay, especially to include inclusionary housing. And when I did a little research on what inclusionary housing is, because I'd never heard of it before, it could possibly allow them to skip paying certain fees, take advantage of expedited permitting processes, and the opportunity to build a bigger project in this area that would otherwise be zoned for a smaller scale development. This project is not about helping seniors in the town of Franklin. It is self-serving. If Mr. Hunchard is allowed to rezone his land, he would walk away from this housing project even wealthier than he already is, while the rest of us are left to pick up the pieces and deal with the many years of construction, increased traffic on our street that is already busy enough, and the possibility of even more wildlife on our property on a daily basis than we already currently experience. We ask that before you vote on allowing him to rezone his land, that you visit the site and see what this project would look like, and of all the neighbors that would be directly affected by this huge project. Our family appreciates the board's time tonight, and we ask each and every one of you to think about how would you feel if you had a development of this magnitude behind or across the street from a home that you love? Would you want your parents or your children to have this type of development near their homes? For some people, the place where they live is just a house. And for these two property owners, these are just houses to them. But everybody here behind me tonight, our houses are our homes, and we work hard to be able to stay in them. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Just approach the mic, please, and give your name and address.
Yeah, I'm Kurt Lovell. I live at 711 Summer Street, right down the street. And I just have one observation that if you take those two parcels out of this, and I'm not an engineer, but if you take those two houses out of this project, that's what, 3 or 4 acres? Sir?
You need to ask
Or do you know?
through the chairman, please.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Chairman.
Yeah, I think it's probably 3 or 4 acres, yes.
Yeah, 3 or 4 acres. So that's in the, just to get the units up there. But my biggest concern is, with that hill to being the way it is, the water runoff with all of that area developed in the driveways and the roads, that's gonna be huge going into that, into the reservoir and down toward that well. I mean, that's a lot of water. You know, I just.
Pre and post with something like that, that's what the infiltrations will do. They'll pick up the rainwater, the roof and all that, but yeah, there'll still be some migrating outbound, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Name and address, please.
My name is Michael Batarian. I'm a representative of the Camp Hyaston of the Armenian Youth Federation at 722 Summer Street. We've been owners of this property for 80 or 90 years. We've run a summer camp there for 70, coming on 75 years. We're downhill of the project, and last comment, and all the comments regarding stormwater runoff go down to our property. We have about 100 acres there. Because of the great change in elevation at the camp, we have to take care of our own sewage. We have a very expensive sewage system that was put in maybe 10 years ago?
10 years ago.
Yeah. I was on the board back then, but I'm back on now. We have our own well, so we have to take care of our own water and our own sewage. And we're just concerned with runoff from this project affecting those things. So we understand there's a very detailed stormwater runoff report. Anxious to see the peer review from your peer review firm be completed and be able to see a copy of the full report, which I see just came on the website, and be able to understand what the peer reviewer is saying about those things from our. But we do stand with the rest of the community, and I think this is out of character with Summer Street.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members, and happy birthday again to you.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Stephen Foley, and I live at 480 Summer Street. I've only been there for about 4.5 years. I moved from Boston, from South Boston, where I lived for 37 years. And one of the reasons I left is because of the overdevelopment of the area, and that's exactly what I see in that plan before us. I noticed, Mr. Chairman, you referenced the swimming pool. If you think that the owner of that property, Mr. Hunchard, is going to stay there after, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 properties overlooking his swimming pool, somebody is deceiving somebody, and it's nonsense. If you look at the 2 parcels of land, nobody seems to have mentioned that there's a third parcel in the middle of the 2, and all of the, there's 4, 8, 12, 14 units that are going to be peering into his property from their property, and that's totally unacceptable. If you look at it, Summer Street from King Street all the way to the Rentham town line has approximately 45 homes on it. And now you want to take and make it, if you count those 2 properties, that brings it from 44 to 46 properties. You want to basically double the size of the houses that are on Summer Street. And that's just, it's not a rural zone area anymore. Once you put 44 new units in there, it's ridiculous. It's way too many. I submit it looks more like a public housing development than a rural community. And I just think it's outrageous. The board should even consider something like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you guys do me one favor? Just applause at the very end after everybody's done. Somebody else have a comment? Just approach the mic and address and name, please.
27 Central Park Terrace. I don't have a horse in this race. I just have some questions in support of the community. In terms of the open space, the bylaw states that a minimum of 40% of the required senior village open space shall be suitable for use for passive and/or active recreational purposes. And I just wanted to know what percentage of the space complies with that.
As I indicated, we're working on a layout or a concept for how the open space could be used.
Okay. I also wanted to note, I just had a question why the project was not submitted as a friendly 40B. Is that
Through the chair, please. Just
Through the chair, through the chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's not considered an affordable housing project.
Okay.
It's individual condo complex.
And finally, I just want to ask if this were to make it through the process, if somehow made it through the process, if it would be possible to put a traffic light on King and Summer, because it says it's a main thoroughfare, and it's not a main thoroughfare. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kim Spellman, 6 Great Pond Road, just up the street. Couple things. One, this has already been touched on, but I don't think there's anyone in this room that thinks that's a senior village. I mean, that's not. I mean, there's no cohesive center. There's no walking paths. There's no open space that's accessible. That's not what this is about. This is about the developer and the owner making money. 2, before we even get into all of the details of the access roads and all of that, it's the burden of the owner and the developer to establish the need outside of the existing zoning. I don't see it. And I don't think the board should see it either.
Hello, this is Sagnik Ray. I'm actually in the middle parcel, so my property is 490 Summer Street, which is in the middle of the 2 adjoining properties. So when I bought this property in Franklin, I basically looked at the surroundings and I liked the place. It was a nice, quiet place without any commotion where I could easily retire after work. But looking at the 44 buildings that are scheduled to go up there, I don't know what the timelines of the project looks like, but by the time probably this project would be over, my 6-year-old daughter would have grown up and we would be devoid of any privacy or any quietness that we right now enjoy. So just wanted to put it out there and the concerns that I have around that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
May I bring these up to you?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. You can spread them
Thank you.
around real quick. Yep.
My name is Sally Winters, and I live at 486 Summer Street. My property comes in along the first unit that is supposed to be part of the development. That house was purchased solely to allow the sewer and water to come down along my driveway for this property. They've been planning on doing a development since the applicant applied 7 years ago to develop cluster homes. There's nothing senior about homes that are gonna be for sale for $850,000 to $900,000. That just blows my mind. Somebody should be building affordable housing for the seniors, not these high-priced cluster home condominiums. I truly believe this is a disguise of the cluster home development that the applicant wanted to build 7 years ago. My property actually faces the 10 acres that Bruce owns. I don't even have a front yard. I brought a right-of-way from Bruce 40 years ago down into my property. So my house faces the entire development. Dining room windows, living room windows, you name it. And now I have my 91-year-old mother living with me. She's been in town for 72 years. I've lived at this house for 40 years. Let's face it, do I want her to listen to construction for 5 straight years, the last 5 years of her life, in this area? I walked the property down in the Franklin Forest, and this whole development slopes down onto my property and into the Franklin Town Forest where the cliff is, where there's actually some caves in it. It's pretty interesting. You should take a walk down there and check it out sometime. Let's see here. Everybody has pretty much mentioned what I was going to talk about. We all know that the applicant has a right to build on his property, but I don't feel he has a right to rezone property and build 44 units plus. And I can remember, the traffic is another thing. I can remember 28 years ago, and this might sound silly, when my son was 12, he wanted to drive down Summer Street on his bike to Crocker Ave. And it was so dangerous back then, I literally said, sure, you can do it. But here I am, the mother, behind him in my car with the flashers on. So fast forward 28 years later, I have to creep out of my driveway, and where the entryway is proposed for this development, it comes up over a hill where the people are just getting their speed to come down to Summer Street to hit King Street. Let's see. You know, the zoning establishes clear boundaries for different land uses so the neighborhoods can maintain the character. To allow this development is not fair, and it's unjust to change a rural residential neighborhood so dramatically for the pocket of one or two people. Please be thoughtful and considerate when making a decision, and I really feel that the mental health and happiness of everybody in this room, it's in your hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, yep. Name and address.
Chris Wolf from 489 Summer Street, which is directly, again, opposite the proposed development site. Everyone's mentioned everything I think I was going to say, except for a couple of considerations. Mr. Chair, I would ask if the developers would consider subsidizing or paying entirely for a sidewalk into town. I'm in the demographic, over 55, so it's a dangerous walk by itself. It is walkable. It's 1.5 miles to downtown, 1.5 miles to Franklin Village. But if you had not at night, you couldn't do it at night, you'd need a sidewalk. So I don't know if that would be something that they would consider supporting. I'll hold off on the facetious remark about looking forward to using the pool. Thank you.
I am going to go to Zoom because there's an individual who had their hand up for a while, and is it Sean? Shane?
Shane, yes, thank you. I echo a lot of those concerns. My name is Shane Kurtz. I live on Squibnocket Road, 11 Squibnocket Road, which is just down the street. Just wanted to highlight that our road has already seen a significant amount of erosion over the last couple of years, likely due to some of the developments at a higher topography. Lawrence Drive, Penny Lane, to name a few. So I have serious concerns around the water and the drainage to support such a development, as well as walking those trails pretty much every day. There's no way that there's not going to be an environmental impact. The trail actually goes right by that cliff on the backside, and there's significant vegetation along with the Youngers Brook itself that would be impacted by such a development, along with the wildlife. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you. And there is one more person out in Zoom, and is it Cynthia?
Yes, again, I had spoken during the first time Bruce had tried to do this 7 years ago. I am third generation. I'm at 403 Summer Street, which is directly across from the town forest. I'll tell you, that's become a glorified dog park. People park, sometimes they have parked on my property just to walk their dogs. So again, with the traffic that's been going on the street, with the town park, recreation, the wildlife, for Bruce to even propose this again, he's definitely got some dementia going on with his age. Again, the storm that we had in December, okay, back up a little bit more. We have that the Open Community Preservation Act that's been added to our taxes. And then we have the stormwater fee that was added to our water and sewer bill. The storm that we had in December, torrential rains, DPW has rebuilt the grate in front of my property where the pond is 2 times at least. And the water that came in that December storm down the street washed away my front side yard and my front yard, putting gravel, mulch, they can't even maintain it currently, never mind adding additional stormwater erosion situation there. So again, it's and to compare it to Palladini Village, I am still experiencing water issues from Palladini Village. I had Mr. Yabasinia come up, town engineer, to address it the first winter after Palladini Village came in, and he said that that had nothing to do with it. But we have had severe water. It comes down, it goes under our front yard, and it drains into our pond, drains into our neighbor's driveway, which they have unfortunately called the police. They think that I can control the water table. I cannot. And it's all due to the excessive building. As the gentleman from Scribnocket said, erosion, everything runs downhill. And that storm in December was just, it was unbelievable. I didn't have any water more than I've ever had on the property, but it still can't be controlled with the DPW. I've called the DPW, I don't know how many times, about that drainage that goes across the street into the town forest. And, you know, they come up, then they lift the cover, they look into there, and then they put the cover on, and for the next week and a half, the 100 or so cars that go by every hour, because they haven't tightened that grate cover down. And again, it's just ridiculous. So again, for Bruce to even consider this, again, that we have to keep on doing it it's really sad. It's really sad, and again, I'm done.
Thank you. We'll go to one more Zoom. I see he's waiting out there. I believe it's Mark.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mark Minichelli, 31 Longfellow Drive in Franklin. So I don't live close to Summer Street, but I still would like to share some thoughts. I'm a strong advocate for Franklin to have more affordable housing units available, more senior housing units available. However, if you look at this proposed development and the topology of the land and the current zoning of the land, I don't think we should allow developers to misuse the characterization of senior housing and affordable housing to try to push through a development that really shouldn't be done. So, as strong an advocate as I am for more affordable housing units and more senior housing units in Franklin, I look at this proposal and to me it doesn't make any sense at all. So I just wanted to come out publicly against this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience have anything different to say, or? Yeah, go ahead. Just approach your name and address, please.
My name is Sarah Dacco, and I'm 483 Summer Street. We're actually two houses down from Cynthia, and just to echo what Cynthia said, our yard actually is so flooded that we could probably open a public ice skating rink in the winter. So I echo those. And I also have an MSW in social work, and I specialized in elder care. And this is a very congested complex. And usually when you're 55 and above, you're looking to downsize, not upsize, where these all seem to be three bedroom apartments, 2 floors, and most senior living usually is a single floor. And with the retaining walls, to be honest, it sounds like more like a senior prison than actually a senior living facility. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody have anything different to add, or no? Sounds like we, yeah, one more? If you could just give us your name and address, please.
Warby, 812 Summer Street. I've lived here for like 30 years now. I'm just thinking, if someone has an opportunity to change the zoning law so it's no longer rural residential, when does that end? Is this the beginning of what's going to happen, where it's rural when you bought it, but somebody who has money can change it? It's disturbing. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think we've seen and heard enough.
Mr. Chairman, don't kill me, but I have one more comment. Yeah. I know it's your birthday.
I actually want to make note that Kimberly Burse is make sure her letter goes in
Yep.
for record.
Yeah, it just,
Go ahead.
one comment, maybe two, but I just wanted to say thank you to the abutters for coming out today. It's, to me, really important to hear from you. And some of the key words that I picked up, not always great at articulating how I feel, but I want to say to the abutters, thank you for articulating a lot of what I couldn't say. Some of the words that stood out to me is nonsense, establish a need, devoid of privacy, misusing the intent of this bylaw, 100%, 100%. I agree with you guys, 100%. Whether that's out of turn. This property is not being developed with the intent of a senior village bylaw at hand. What has happened to what your property can hold? What has happened to 19 units? Where do we go from 19 to 44? It doesn't work here. So I suggest if this is going to happen, you figure out a way to make this work within the bylaw and actually be a senior village, because it's not. And we all know that. Let's be honest.
Thank you. Okay,
All right.
so,
To the chair, it seems like there's a lot of work to be done. I'm thinking towards April 8th. I don't know how applicant attorney feels, if that's...
Yeah, Dan and I were talking, April 8th is probably a good target date, because Beta will need to review and give comments. We'll need to review that and give comments back. Obviously, take in all the comments made tonight, so, yeah, it's a good target date.
Okay.
so we make a motion to continue 488 and 496 Summer Street till April 8th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Jay Mello. Still on?
Yeah, I'm here. You guys, I'm sorry, was that me?
Yes, that
Yeah,
was
Jay
you.
Mello.
No, I'm sorry. When everyone was going off in the crowd, it got really, really loud on my computer, so I had to tone it way down. My apologies.
It was as loud in here.
That's all right, Jay. We're voting to continue the public hearing till April 8th. So,
Yes.
Jay Mello, yes. Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Jennifer Williams, yes.
Okay.
Wait, don't leave yet.
No?
Oh, I have one announcement.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Greg. I do have a second. I do have a second announcement to go on to the master plan. As you know, the town's been working on updating the master plan. This weekend at the library, the sustainability subcommittee and the land use subcommittee will be at the library from 9:30 to 12. Open comments. Would love to see the public there. Would love to get input with goals, objectives for the town. So I do want to announce that, though. And there's more activities on March 23rd. There'll be a dean with refreshments, and all the subcommittees will be there. So please go to the master plan committee website, and you'll see the events and everything coming up. So I encourage everybody to do that. And happy birthday, Greg.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Yes.
So-
Second.
A second?
Yeah, second. Jay Mello.
Yes.
Chris Stickney.
Yes.
Beth Whirling.
Yes.
Greg Rondo.
Yes.
Jen Williams, yes. Happy birthday, Greg.
Yes. We're still closing.
Hi, guys.
All right, thank you,
I
Jen.
just said happy birthday.